morning, everyone. Happy Friday from the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it is 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley is out for her bachelorette party. Danny Mack is here. Matthew Rocchio is here. I'm Randy Carricker. Great to have you with us. Good morning, Danny. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday. It should be a great weekend. Weather is a little iffy, but that's okay. The weekend is here.
It is, and really, that's a big thing. That's important.
You should be fired up because next week you will not be here, and you leave for Arizona tomorrow. Oh, you're going tonight?
Yeah.
Happy vacation.
Thank you. Yeah. Giants and A's tomorrow, and then tomorrow night, St. Louis and Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics visit the Valley of the Sun.
He missed a big shot last night.
Yeah.
Had a chance to put it away for the Celtics, but didn't quite work. So good luck to you. Have a great trip.
Thank you. We have a busy day coming up. We're going to talk to Jay Delsing, our buddy at the bottom of the hour, talk some golf with him. Joe Vitale at 8:15. We're also going to talk to Bradley Carnell, head coach at St. Louis City SC there at Austin tomorrow night. He'll join us at 8:45. And then at 9:15, our buddy Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, talking some Blues on this day of the NHL trade deadline. And I still can't figure out whether or not the Blues are going to make a deal or not. They haven't, obviously, yet. And it seems like most teams that need something, after Jake Gensel went to Carolina last night, seems like most teams that need something at the deadline already got it.
I would say Scandella, Buchnevich, those are probably the two biggest names that will be talked about with the Blues. There's some other players that they have that they'd love to move, I'm sure, but can't. And they're hamstrung a bit because Justin Falk has a 6.5 cap hit, Torrey Krug 6.5, Nick Leddy 4, and all have no trade clauses.
There is the rub right there.
Absolutely.
Krug has already invoked his once, and I guess if you're going to go to a contender, you might consider giving up that no trade clause. But if you're comfortable, see, those guys are all in their 30s and have kids too. And you don't want to uproot your family, maybe, to go to a place where, yeah, you might have a better opportunity to win this year. But there are also family considerations to take into.
Hey, you negotiated it.
Yep.
It's in your contract.
Might as well use it, right?
Absolutely.
If you have it. Last night, the Blues fell at New Jersey by a score of 4-1. Timo Meier, the former San Jose Shark, scoring twice in the first period. But then midway through the second, the Blues got close.
To the blue line, Scandella shooting it. Oh, just missed. Down in behind the goal, recovered by Saad. 17 goals on the year for Saad. Snaps it over to Perunovic. Stick handles, looking, shoots. Oh, he hit the post. Rebound, they score! Saad is 18th of the year after Perunovic put it off the iron. The Blues are on the board. 10:57 to go in the second. It's a 2-1 hockey game.
That was as close as the Blues would get. They had some opportunities, just couldn't convert. Meyer with a hat trick. He scored his third at 16:40 of the second, his 17th of the year. And then Eric Haula with an empty netter. And Jersey wins it by a score of 4-1. The Blues still 6 points out of the final Western Conference wildcard spot.
It's going to be tough, real tough with 19 games to go. How about the Blues? And this shows you where they're at talent-wise. They have not outshot their opponent 5-on-5 in the last 19 straight. Even further than that, just once in the last 26. The Blues are 28th right now, 5-on-5. It's getting worse. Only Washington, Anaheim, San Jose, and Chicago are behind them. Uninspired first period. They fell behind 2-0, and it's tough to catch up 5-on-5. And this team lives and dies with the power play, and they don't get a lot of chances on a power play. They're just not going to win.
So you hit on two items there in the space of 30 seconds. Not enough talent and uninspired. That's a really bad combination.
Bad combo, man. Bad combo. And they just kind of seemed out of sync. Some guys want a forward check. Some guys play east-west. Everything looks off. And like I said, they live and die with that power play. And if they don't get a lot of opportunities, Randy, they're just not going to score. And I was looking at some numbers, and you're a better number guy than I am. So their the A seed in the playoffs last year had 95 points. Blues have 67 with 19 to go. So they would have to win 14 of their last 19. I think I got this right, to get to 95 points and be the potential ace seed in the West. Ain't going to happen.
No, the Blues haven't had, that's essentially a quarter of the season. And in the first 3 quarters of the season, they haven't had that stretch yet. What would lead anybody to believe that they would have it now?
I would say, too, looking at the trade deadline, Doug takes this all the way to just about 2 o'clock St. Louis time. And as you mentioned, there's some players now off the board where the focus really is, if you want a winger, go get Buchnevich. But take it to the final minutes and see if you can grind this thing out and get what you can.
Yeah, and Matthew and I were talking earlier. if you aren't going to make the playoffs, why not suck so that you have a chance at the draft pick? Get into the lottery like last year and hope that you can get the number 1 pick. Now, there's not a Connor Bedard this year, but still, you're better off with the first pick in the draft than the 10th pick in the draft.
This is a rebuild.
Yeah.
Why are we saying retool? This is going to be a rebuild.
Yeah.
Now, if they get into the playoffs, I may change my mindset, but I'm with you. Trade your assets and start over a little bit. I mean, you're starting to get some of the young players that you drafted probably by next year. I would play Kessel. I'd bring him up a bunch. I'd play Bolduc, and I'd see what I have in training camp next year with Snuggerud and some of the others that they like. And then, stockpile some draft picks and make this and you have pointed out, I think you're 100% right. You look at like the New Jersey Devils, the Buffalo Sabres. These teams have had high picks. The Blue Jackets, another one. And sometimes it doesn't work, but that's where the Blues are right now until some of the contracts come off the books.
Yeah, at some point, whether it's in the middle of the first round or the end of the first round or the beginning of the first round, they're going to have to get lucky to get a superstar. And you really do need, aside from the 2019 Blues, they were the aberration. You need a superstar to win a Stanley Cup.
314 says 23 years ago, famous date in Blues history, they get Big Walt. 23 years ago.
That was amazing.
I loved it. They were going for broke. You had Pronger, McInnes, Big Walt, Pavel Dimitra. They had a good team.
Yeah, and that was such a fun time because and it's not like the franchises are not intertwined now, but I remember that was Jimmy Edmonds' second year here, and he was so fired up about the Blues he's a huge hockey guy, as you know, and he was so fired up about the Blues getting Big Walt. That's amazing, 23 years ago.
I remember when the Blues and under the Lauries were really going for it. Mm-hmm. You remember? They spent a lot of money, and there was no cap, so you could spend what you wanted, and they signed Al, and they signed Prongs to a big deal. They're bringing in Big Walt. They had Dimitra. He was locked up. It was such a fun team to watch. And then everything got gutted.
Yeah.
And it was a tough go in the early 2000s.
By the way, one thing that we had the good fortune of being able to witness as well, that was 23 years ago. About 23 years relative to this time of year, we also got the first opportunity to see Matthew and Brady Tkachuk wrestling in the Blues dressing room and playing with the little shortened sticks and everything.
Well, Keith Tkachuk said to me, he said, "Danny, come here." I said, okay. And I come in there and we rolled up a bunch of tape and he said, "Teach these kids to swing a bat." That was Matthew down. He was just a little guy, and Brady. It was unbelievable,
that was
man.
So much fun.
They were great.
Speaking of baseball, down in Florida yesterday, the Cardinals got solo home runs from Marp and from Jordan Walker. They also got an RBI hit from Alec Burleson in a 6-3 loss to the Houston Astros. Cardinals starting pitcher Kyle Gibson, Gibby, sorry, social media. He got off to another rough start.
Are we finishing with the Gibby stuff? Where you at with it?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
I'm guessing that he's been called Gibby since he was in first grade.
Just not in St. Louis.
No. But,
it's adorable that you think this isn't going to be something that happens through like August.
It's adorable. Just let it happen. Whatever.
Gibby goes 3 innings. He allows 4 runs on 5 hits, struck out 3, didn't walk anybody. He's just working on stuff. He's a veteran. Matthew Liberatore was terrific in his 3 innings. He was scoreless. 2 Ks. He did allow 5 hits, but worked around them. And then John King came on and allowed a couple of runs, 1 earned on his 3 hits in 1 inning. And then Keenan Middleton, a scoreless inning, and Andrew Kittredge, a scoreless inning, as the Cardinals fall to Houston by a score of 6-3.
So Gibson, the last 2 years, 359 2/3 innings with an ERA of 4.88. And that's just what I expect, Randy. And yesterday may be an example of that. He had the rough start. But here's the thing you have to remember. His ground ball rate in his career, and this is pretty high, is 51%.
It's really high now.
Yeah, your defense on the infield better be really good. And when Houston scored initially, it was a ball that just got by Arenado. And I know this is shoulda, coulda, woulda, and if, but if he gets that, they turn a double play. Then there was another ground ball after that scored runs. Your infield defense has got to be really good this year when Kyle Gibson is on the mound.
And my only real concern is I don't know what to expect from second base. I think that Donovan will be fine. I don't know if Gorman is anything better than league average. I don't know if his ceiling at second base is above league average. But we know that Arenado is. We are led to believe that Wynn is going to be well above league average. I think Paul Goldschmidt's still capable of winning a Gold Glove over at first. So second base is my only question mark. If Gibson gets ground balls, he should succeed here.
Isn't it interesting looking ahead to this of if you're Ollie, do you say, okay, I got Kyle Gibson. He may only give me 5 innings, but do I put my best defensive infield out there when he's on the mound? Now, what does that mean? That means potentially that you're taking Nolan Gorman as your DH, but what if there's a lefty on the mound and you say, do I really want Nolan Gorman facing him? I mean, you can mix and match a little bit thinking of the defense too.
Right, and the other play there would be to play Herrera with Contreras as your DH if you're not confident that Gorman can hit the left-hander. My preference would be, and I know that people want to win badly, but we need to find out what Nolan Gorman is. And if Nolan Gorman can be Kyle Schwarber or better than Kyle Schwarber faces everybody.
I'll take the strikeouts as long as he walks into a few home runs against lefties.
Absolutely. So I want to see Gorman every day. I want to see Gorman play 140 games. I don't care who it's against.
I wonder if he could get to 140 games with his back, or they have to baby him along just to make sure over the long haul of a season that you get, let's say, 125, 130 games out of him. I wonder if that's the mindset going in. Here's the thing, though, man. Bad back at 23.
How long do you think he's been dealing with that?
I'm not going to go down that road, and I would say a few years.
I think about a week back.
Terrible. It's 7-11 here in St. Louis.
Matthew.
Not great weather outside. And
Randy, if you throw up the oop, I'm jumping every time.
Allie.
I'm jumping every time.
don't placate to him. Think for yourself.
No, I get yelled at when I do that.
Okay, placate to Randy. It's his show.
No, when I think for myself, the text line gets really mad at me.
Cardinals play the Nationals tonight. 5:05 game. Lance Lynn goes against JoJo Gray for the Nationals.
So this would be the first appearance we get a look at Lance Lynn. One of the things that they picked up on last year, Randy, was that his fastball, and we know that's basically what he throws, fastball, sinker, whatever, you look at it. But they noticed a little detection that he is not on top of the baseball, and they think that they can fix that to get more of an angle going downward.
He's done that his whole career, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He spins.
Yeah.
It's like my golf swing at times.
And you think about like just an inch or two getting on top of the ball and the sink that he will get, and maybe that just keeps the ball in the ballpark after giving up so many home runs last year.
So we'll keep an eye on Lance Lynn tonight. The Missouri Valley Conference Tournament got underway yesterday over at Enterprise Center, and you can get tickets. Go to archmadness.com. Missouri State just dunked on Murray State 60-35. Valpo falls to Belmont 86-61. Evansville, a 59-53 winner over Illinois State. And in the late game last night, UIC in double overtime over SIU 84-82. So Illinois Chicago eliminates SIU from the Valley Tournament.
I wonder how tough it is for these coaches to look at their teams as opposed to being in some of the bigger conferences and say, how are we going to keep our best players? How are we going to do that? Everybody's trying to pluck really good players out there with the transfer portal, but when you're a mid-major, how do you keep your players from jumping? And that's what I think about when I watch the MVC.
Yeah, there is nothing you can do because, and basketball now is a Power 5 when you include the Big East. Why would a player want to stay in the A-10 or the Valley when they have a better chance of getting drafted, playing at a higher level, and most importantly, getting big money from a Power 5? Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
And sure, you make that commitment to one of these schools, and I would prefer that players stick around. But thinking about it from the standpoint of an 18 or 19-year-old, they still think they're going to be an NBA star, and you have a better chance of being an NBA star playing against the level of the Power 6, Power 5 teams.
So these the MVCs of the world, just the rollover on their rosters year to year is going to be fascinating to watch as we move forward with college basketball after this year and the year after that and so on and so forth. But NIL has changed it. Does it take then away from the mid-majors and what they're trying to do to be as competitive as they can be against a Power 5? It's going to be tough for them to keep some of these kids.
Yeah, it is. So the Valley Tournament is underway, and we're going to have more about today's games for you later on in the show. Coming up, the NFL's legal tampering period. So tampering is legal. The legal tampering period begins on Monday, and we're going to talk about some NFL news and notes for you next on 101 ESPN.
Bearmere Glass and Door, simply the finest when it comes to mirrors, glass, and shower doors.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Savings. Now that's speaking the Lowe's language. And with My Lowe's Rewards, your savings just keep coming. Save money with member-only offers and earn points when you shop. More points equal more rewards just for you. Because Lowe's knows you earned it, literally. Learn more about our new loyalty program at Lowes.com/MyLowe'sRewards. Program subject to terms and conditions. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. See Lowes.com/terms for full details. Subject to change.
ESPN has your chance to win free tickets to Primus and Coheed and Cambria, playing at Cobill on Saturday night, August 3rd at St. Louis Music Park. Tickets for Primus and Coheed and Cambria just went on sale, but we've already got your chance at the free ticket hookup.
Do you want me to lie?
Get entered to win those tickets now, either at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
From the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
All right, a lot going on as we approach free agency in the National Football League. The Kansas City Chiefs and linebacker Drew Tranquill have reached agreement on a 3-year, $19 million deal that includes $13 million fully guaranteed. And so one part of the Chiefs' defense is back, but the big part, Chris Jones, is not back yet. He is apparently headed towards free agency. They aren't going to franchise him, I don't think. But the reason that they did franchise their cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed, is because the Chiefs are confident that they'll be able to get Jones under contract.
Did you think, though, that it's a little much for a corner? So higher paid safeties like Simmons, Diggs, Poyer, Adams, all looking for jobs in a pass-happy league right now, Randy, and we're seeing the money go to pass rushers, linebackers a little bit, defensive ends, and you're not seeing, as we've seen, running backs not getting paid, not seeing safeties getting paid.
No.
I find it really interesting what's happening in the trend that's changed in the National Football League.
Well, normally you use safeties to come up and, depending on the type of defense you run, but you want them to handle the running game, and if the running game isn't a big part of the sport anymore, you don't need preeminent safeties. Now, the two Seattle safeties, hell, they couldn't even get on the field, even though they did have 6 Pro Bowls between them. We never saw Jamal Adams. We didn't see much of Diggs, who, by the way, wants to go back to corner after getting some money at safety. That was a pretty funny tweet from Quandre. But you're right. It's the game has changed so much that it's all about rushing the passer, protecting the passer, receiving the ball, throwing the ball, and defending against the receiver. So it's a sport of left tackles, primarily, defensive ends, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and corners.
Yep, that's it. Now, let's talk about some of the news that was off the field with the L.A. Rams, and that's your best buddy, Kevin Demoff, that looks like he's going to be expanding his role in the Kroenke empire of sports.
Yeah, he has been given the reins not only of the Rams, but he's been given the reins of the Nuggets and the Avalanche as well. Now, does the role of Joe Sakic change with the Avalanche? No. And does Kevin still report to Josh Kroenke in Denver? Yes. But Kevin Demoff, if they need to move one of their franchises, now is going to be overseeing all of Kroenke Sports Enterprises and media, by the way. And one of the things that he's charged with negotiating is the Altitude Sports, which Stan Kroenke owns, has not been on the primary cable carrier in Denver since 2019. So nobody's seen the Nuggets or the Avalanche on cable TV since 2019, and Demoff is supposed to come in and smooth over that relationship.
So does that change his role with the Rams? I mean, that's a full-time, busy job that he had, clearly. But now that you're overseeing these franchises, is he more out of the NFL look and just kind of overseeing the umbrella of this?
The release said that his duties with the Rams will not change, but I have to believe that they will. He was their main cap guy for a long time. I don't know if they have another cap guy now, but he seems to be in CEO range now. And one of the things that I can take out of this is if you just look a little bit beyond the surface. Maybe Stan Kroenke is getting ready to retire. Josh Kroenke is getting ready to assume that role. He's already the governor for the two, the NBA and the NHL teams. Maybe Josh Kroenke is going to be the Stan Kroenke, and Demoff will take over the Josh Kroenke role, not just with the Nuggets and Avalanche, but the Rams and their Colorado Rapids soccer team, too.
Can I interview you a little bit here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious what you think on this stuff, and very, very interested. What was your relationship prior to him lying to the community? I mean, did you get along with him?
Got along with him great.
He was very good, wasn't he,
Yeah.
with the media and with you guys? This was the home of the Rams, 101 ESPN, so he was readily available if you needed him?
All the time, yeah. Now, he was very defensive of the team, which was fine. That was his job. But, yeah, he's... And he always said the right things to St. Louisans, even in public forums. He would say the right things. I remember one time when the state, we did a thing, I IMC'd an event at Lindenwood, and one of the lotteries had gotten up to $400 million. And he said, if I won this lottery tonight, I would contribute the $400 million to building a stadium in the city.
Well, he said that.
He said that to the group at Lindenwood. Yeah. No, I don't know if he bought the tickets, and by that time, by the way, the franchise was already out the door. It was post summer of 2013, so it was clearly out the door. But he was I'll give him credit. He was a liar. I was going to try to give him credit for being
professional liar.
Well, yeah, he is. But he came on our air when I found out that the decision had been made to move the franchise, and that's when he said, don't trust this show and what you hear on this show. But he did say at that same time, he said, hey, this is going to get worse before it gets better.
Wow.
So anyway, it's an interesting time in America when you can lie your way to the top, which is what he did.
I find it, now back to the football scene, I find it amazing that these players, when guys get these contracts, yes, they get 100, you hear 110 million guaranteed, somebody gets 130 guaranteed, and then they have to earn the rest of the money. Of all sports, not to be guaranteed the 200 million or the 350 or 250, football, it's a wreck every single play. And free agency starts, as you mentioned, next week. And I get it. The guaranteed money is enormous. But when you look at other professional sports in which the money is guaranteed on the contract for the length of the deal, I find it different. I don't know. Maybe I look at it wrong.
No,
maybe I look at it with a stupid perspective. I just don't understand how the Players Association hasn't gone in and said, look, our guys, every single play, it's a train wreck, and their bodies are getting mangled out there, and they're one play away from being done with their NFL career, and yet the money is not guaranteed fully.
And the owners used to have, back when even Dan Dierdorf played.
So I'm not crazy.
No.
Okay.
Their argument used to be better because the money that they were getting from television wasn't so outrageous. And they could say, well, if we lose a couple of players to career-ending injuries and we have to pay them, that could affect us negatively. Now, with all the money that they're making, Hell, look what happened with Russell Wilson. The Broncos had no trouble taking that $85 million dead money hit. They can take the hit on guaranteed money for every single contract now. And if I were the union, I know it's hard to get the players on the same page, but that's one thing. That would be my main thing next time there's a CBA is, hey, we've got guys that do wind up getting hurt and suffering career-ending injuries. We know that you can afford to have guys come off the books. We've seen it with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen it with Russell Wilson. We've seen it with Deshaun Watson isn't playing and is getting all this guaranteed money. The Vikings were able to live life without Kirk Cousins, so we want every player to have guaranteed contracts.
Is Deshaun Watson's guaranteed contract, because that is guaranteed
fully?
Is that exactly? Is that going to go down as the worst deal for a QB? I mean, Russell Wilson, as we said this week, that's pretty good. That's going to go down as a bad one. But Russell Wilson, as compared to Deshaun Watson, and this money that he's going to get guaranteed, and he may not get back on the field. Like Joe Flacco could come back. Who knows?
The Browns are going to get more games out of Deshaun Watson and probably get more wins out of Deshaun Watson. And they can probably hang around because he's only got 2 years left now, right? No, it's 5 years. So this was the second year. So he's still got 3 years left. It's going to be very, very close. It's going to be hard to be worse than the Russell Wilson deal because not only does Denver take all that financial hit, but they were terrible with him, too.
Do you follow free agency much in the NFL?
I do. I can't get away from it.
It's on everything. That's what I'm bringing up. It's amazing. Like, I watch Major League Baseball in an offseason, and I love it. I love the Hot Stove League, and I think I'm in the minority of, obviously, most fans in the United States because they're all watching football.
Yep.
It does not go away.
No, it doesn't. And to their credit, they make the combine a big deal. And people write and throw the combine in our face. You can't get away from that. And then right the week after the combine, you've got free agency, and it's not a free agency that takes 3 months. You have a 2-day tampering period, quote unquote, and it's amazing. Everybody signs within those 2 days. You talk about a free agent frenzy.
Yeah.
It is a frenzy. But then the league has 1,700 players. So there are also players that trickle in. And once you finish this week of free agency, then you get going in the draft. And the draft happens in May. And then you take June off, and then all of a sudden you're back at it.
Late July, mid-July for some of these teams. Mini camps start.
Yep.
And there's also with the teams, now the CBA did allow them to stop some of the off-season training, and maybe that's why we see some of the sloppy play early on, and it doesn't ingratiate people to the offense, new faces, but it's just, it never goes away.
And having 3 preseason games, too.
Yes.
But they don't have any preseason games in college, so I'm sure the NFL is thinking, well, we can do this. And people are still gambling on it, even though they don't know what's going to happen. They still gamble on it, and that's going to get people to tune in.
The NFL has the best minor league system in the history of sports.
They do.
It's college football.
Yep. Don't cost nothing.
Nope. Just watch some players, put them on tape, and draft them.
Those are your NFL news and notes on 101 ESPN. Coming up, Dan and Randy will visit with Jay Delsing. He'll have the show with Dan on Sunday morning here on 101 ESPN. Jay joins us to talk some golf next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky O with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues last night fall to the Devils 4-1. They will finish off, or they'll continue, I should say, their East Coast road trip. They have 2 games left, but the next game will be the Rangers on Saturday night with a 6:30 p.m. puck drop. You'll be able to catch the pregame show right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues, starting at 5:30 p.m. The trade deadline in the NHL ends at 2 p.m. today. You'll be able to hear some trade deadline talk coming up later on the show as the Athletics' Jeremy Rutherford joins Danny and Randy coming up at 9:15. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Danny Mac and Randy with you. Brooke is off for her bachelorette party. We go to the celebrity line now, and our friend, former PGA Tour pro Jay Delsing, who hosts Golf with Jay Delsing with Dan Sunday mornings from 8 to 10 here on 101 ESPN, joins us. Good morning, Jay. How you doing? Jay?
Jay? Are you with us, Jay?
I'm here. Good morning, guys. How about the tampering period? Is that in golf? It'd be like, okay, for the next 3 holes, you get to cheat.
No, the tamper. It's kind of like John Rahm going to live.
It's like tampering. No, okay, you can tamper for 2 days, and then you got to stop.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Jay, Dan and I were just talking about this off the air. Rory, and we're going to hear a little bit from Rory in a moment, but he's talked about globalizing golf and taking some tour events away from the United States of America and making golf a more global game, and the best golfers in the world playing all over the globe. What do you think he's talking about in terms of taking tour events away from the United States, and would it be beneficial to golf in the U.S. if golf did that?
Well, I think what he's referring to, Randy, is a world tour. It's kind of what Greg Norman wanted back in the 90s when he to get Rupert Murdoch to support the same idea that he's having now. He's just found somebody with more money and an appetite for this now with the Saudis. And I don't know, Randy, I have a feeling that what it would do is it would diminish a lot of the old records that Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus and some of the greats have established. And there's probably going to be some version of this. I'm just not sure what it looks like. Is it going to be better for golf in the U.S.? I don't see how it's better for golf in the U.S. to have less tournaments, meaning less access for some young, little boy or young little girl to learn the game, to see it from some great player. I don't see how it can be better. It seems inevitable, though, guys. It seems like that's where we're going with this thing, and that there's got to be tournaments in South America now, and it's going to be some sort of world tour. And the top players, though, guys, will only play so much. And so I don't know. It's chaos down there still right now. It's the players. How's this, guys? The professional golfers have never, ever come close to playing for this much money, and the sport's absolute disarray. It's certainly crazy time.
Rory McIlroy this past week was asked about LIV, and would he ever jump? And here's what he had to say.
Me. It's I'm too much of a traditionalist. I'm too much of a I'm steeped in the I love winning golf tournaments and looking at the trophy and seeing that Sam Snead won this trophy, or Ben Hogan, or Gene Saracen, or Jack Nicklaus, or Gary Player, or Tiger Woods, or whoever it is, the people that came before me, like that to me is a big deal in our game. If we were to all put our heads together and be like, okay, what can we do to all come back together and move forward and be a little more cohesive, and then I would sort of be for that.
You know, it's interesting, Jay, that Rory makes those comments. He was steadfast in not jumping to LIV, and it seems like that's the direction that he will stay on. But it does seem like he's starting to lighten his stance a little bit on what's happening on the landscape of the world of golf.
Yeah, I think, Danny, 100%. It's not exactly a moonwalk, but it's walking it back. I mean, here's the other thing. He loves the Ryder Cup, and he's watching his Ryder Cup team just get dismantled when you take away John Rahm, you take away Tyrrell Hatton. I mean, so everything is up. Everything is up in the air, and everything is up for grabs with this stuff, man. It's changing, and I just don't know what it's going to look like. I just wonder if it's not like the NHL and the AHL and the NFL and the AFL back in the day, and the ABA and the NBA, and that eventually will come together. It's just how long and what is it going to look like and what's it going to cost?
And Jay, one of the things with the NBA and the ABA, WHL, NHL, NFL, AFL, the established leagues were able to keep their stars front and center. When's the last time we saw a PGA Tour star on Sunday, where a Rory or a Spieth or a Morikawa or a JT? It's a bunch of guys that we don't know, which really has to be bad for the sport.
It is. It's a tough time. I mean, and it's no disrespect to these young players because they are really, really good, and they're winning golf tournaments, which is a hard thing to do. But in terms of I mean, you look at the leaderboard down at the Mexican Open a couple weeks ago, and it looked like a mini tour event.
Yeah.
People were like, and you crowned a champion. He's well deserved, but it's not good for the game when you turn on TV and go, I don't know one player in the top 15 here.
It was pretty interesting what Greg Norman had to say with the World Golf Rankings this past week, and live guys are just falling off the table. What did you think of what he had to say about World Golf Rankings?
You know, Danny, we've talked about this too, Randy. You know that no one's got any problem with the players that are at live thinking that they're still highly ranked and great golfers. No one is questioning that. It's the league. This league, the league itself is what the problem is. So I did a little research, and here's a quote from Peter Dawson. He's the chairman of the official World Golf Ranking Board. He said, the important point is this is not about players. Live players are self-evidently good enough to be ranked. There's no doubt about that. This is about what should a tour whose formats are so radically different and whose qualification criteria are so radically different, can they be ranked equitably with the other tours that conform to the official World Golf Ranking norm? This is about, is Live a closed shop? Of course Live's a closed shop. So, and that, guys, that comment was a year and a half ago. It was because you got 48 guys and you have no idea who they are, who the second half of the players are, and there's no clear path on how you get on this tour other than Greg Norman calling you.
It's an exhibition.
Right. And I mean, guys, think about this. I mean, you're on the fourth hole putting to win the tournament while someone else is on the 16th hole putting to win the tournament. And if you miss, you still got all your money.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you.
It's crazy.
You know, Jay, I want to ask you about, and Randy made a great point about not having big names atop the leaderboard. Scotty Scheffler, you don't hear anything about this guy. He continues to hit the ball beautifully, but he just can't putt. What's going on with him as you watch him play?
I can't figure it out, guys. He's world number one, and there's never been a quieter number one ranked player in the world, and he's hitting the ball at a prolific level. For yesterday's round, for example, he hits 1 under par at Bay Hill. He hits 83% of the greens. He's leading in strokes gained off the tee. His average drive was 293 yards. His longest drive was 310 yards, and he lost a stroke and a half to the field on the greens in the strokes gained system. So I don't know. Typically speaking, when you have a part of your game that is so out of whack compared to the other parts, usually that bad part starts seeping in. Not that you and I, the three of us, have ever had a day when, you miss a couple putts and then the next thing you know, your driver's haywire. But Scotty has been able to keep it together. And, I mean, he finished in the top 10 at the LA Open, guys, and finished dead last in the field in putting. And so it's odd. It's not like he's missing a lot of these 3 and 4 and 5 footers that you typically don't see tour players miss that often. So I'm not sure what's next for him. If he wants to come see Brad Faxon, who's been a great putter his whole life, I don't know what's next for him. But you got to believe he's going to try something. He's hitting the ball, though, guys, similarly to the levels that Tiger hit the ball in his dominant years in like 2000 and that era. And we haven't seen that. I didn't think we'd see anything like that.
Jay, tell us who you two have on Sunday morning's golf show from 8 to 10.
Well, we have instant offense with Joey V. Joey Vitale told us. Now we've done the show. I'm going to give a little spoiler alert. Joey Vitale told us that when he was a young boy and he and his brothers and family were driving home from church and they passed a golf course that his dad would look over at the golfers and say, "Look at all those lazy men." So it was really good. And we also have Randy, and this is a fun training aid. Jim Hackenberg is the guy that created the Orange Whip. And Randy, do you own an Orange Whip?
I do.
Those are fun. I thought you did because when we played last together, I remember you seeing it.
Yep.
Folks, if you try the Orange, it's really interesting. He created this thing out of his garage, but it's one of the training aids that I really think can help people with their game. I mean, it really can, and it's not expensive. And so if you listen to the show, we give away a code that gets you a discount on the Orange Whip, and it's a fun story.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that. And as always, we thank you for your time. Jay, have a great weekend.
Keep up the good work today, guys. This show's like a throwback from the old days, man. I'm loving it.
Oh, we're kicking it old school.
Old school, man. Live at Shannon's. That's what we keep calling it.
Kicking it old school. I love it. I love it. Have a great day, guys.
You too, Jay. Thanks. Jay Delsing with us on 101 ESPN. Coming up, get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO.
Is this the time to do it?
Whenever you want, man.
Okay. Yo. Ho.
Woo! Take it or leave it next on 101 ESPN. Dan McLaughlin, Matthew Rocky, and Randy Carricker. Great to have you with us on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. And it is time for TIOLI. Get your text in now. As we mentioned earlier during NFL News and Notes, Rams president Kevin Demoff has been promoted to president of team and media operations at Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. He will oversee all operations of KSE, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment Media, including Altitude Sports, where both Avalanche and Nuggets games are played, and also Kroenke Sports and Entertainment Radio. Dan, take it or leave it. If Kevin Demoff calls you and offers you $1 million to work for KSE
a year
broadcasting, $1 million a year.
Okay.
You'd take it.
I initially said no chance. Mm-hmm. I am going to take it. However, I'm going to shower 5 to 7 times a day. I want the $1 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. Would you take it?
I don't think I can, just because of the lack of trust I have for Kevin Demoff. I'm not so sure that what he says, based on my experience with him, is what actually is going to be.
You're a talented guy, though. You'd find another job very quickly. So you can get that $1 million in your pocket and then go find another job.
Well, that's true. And Denver is a great town. And Josh Kroenke, to his credit, has done a really good job with those teams. But it would be very difficult to work. You're literally making a deal with the devil.
Okay, so take it or leave it. We hear that Mike Tyson is going to have a fight coming up. Mike Tyson in his prime was more exciting than watching MMA now.
Oh, take it. Oh, man, yeah. Did you, when he fought Spinks, they had at the Fox Theater, we didn't have pay-per-view at home then. It was like 1988, I think. And so I went over to the Fox Theater and watched their closed-circuit view. It was incredible, and it was so worth it. And he was unbelievable, even though it was only 91 seconds.
I was going to say, that was a quick viewing party.
Yeah.
91 seconds and knocked him out. And didn't Spinks look like he was frightened when he came into the ring?
When he walked in the ring, yep.
He looked frightened. But to me, he was must-see TV. And when we started getting pay-per-view, I had guys and friends of mine, we would all buy the pay-per-view just to watch Mike Tyson in his prime. Now, apparently they showed the fighter, Paul, the video of Mike Tyson here recently, and they said, are you sure you want to do this? Apparently he's been working out, Tyson has, and, he's fun to watch. He still moves the needle.
Yep, 50. Is he 54 years old
I think that's right.
That'll be an interesting television event. All right, your texts, Matthew, what do you got for us?
618 says, take it or leave it. I live in Denver right now, and this should make me feel dirtier going to Nuggets games.
I'll take that, yeah.
Yes, it should. This is a dark, dark day for Nuggets fans all around the country.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It does. It's not great.
Now, when you win, though, the Stanley Cup and you win in other sports like Denver has, I guess that eases the pain a little bit of having this guy run it.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah. It's all about winning. What else you got, Matthew?
This one always comes in every day, and I usually skip it, but let's do it right now. Take it or leave it. NBA and STL within the next 10 years.
Well, leave that.
Leave it!
Yeah. The thing is,
unfortunately,
our market, in large part because we haven't had a merger, is deteriorating. It's not growing. There's so many growing markets, thriving markets in our country. We're down to number 24, I think, in market size. People are leaving the St. Louis region. And until the region is growing and thriving, sports leagues aren't going to want to come here.
You got to have corporate support. And that dollar can only stretch so much. And with the addition of soccer, there's corporate support there. Very good. Obviously, the Blues and the Cardinals are getting that. I just don't see where that would be stretched thin, put it that way.
And if you are a corporate leader and you're going to move let's just throw Delta Airlines as a possibility. Okay, Delta wants to leave Atlanta. And one of the 6 cities that they're going to allow bids to is St. Louis. Who do they talk to? Do they talk to Sam Page? Do they talk to Tashara Jones? Do they talk to somebody else? Who do they talk to about the airport? Right? The airport is run by the city. The county has nothing to do with the airport. If you have a situation like that would pop up, you'd be gone in a blink.
Do we know what's happened with the Rams relocation money? Do we have any idea what's going on?
There was $20 million that was going to be spent on it for something, and I think road repairs in the county. I believe that a portion is going to help out with the construction of the expansion of the convention center.
Okay. All right. I like it.
I don't think it's all been accounted for yet. Yes, Matthew.
Take it or leave it. You would trade the Blues for an NFL team.
I'm going to leave that. The Blues are committed. We can trust the NHL. Gary Bettman and the league as a whole, in general, I'm not calling them names, they've been really committed to St. Louis for a long time, going all the way back to Harold Ballard, the late Leafs owner, not allowing the Blues to leave St. Louis for Hamilton, Ontario. The loyalty of the NHL to St. Louis should be rewarded.
Yeah. Remember, they're going to leave. Saskatoon was, it would seem like 1 foot out the door and mismanaged, misowned, if that's a word at times, and yet they have stuck with the St. Louis community. I'm with you, Randy. If they stick with the community, I think you stick with them.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. It's insane that none of you picked Barry Bonds yesterday as your at bat to win a World Series.
Ooh, that's a good call.
Here's the thing. What did Barry Bonds do in postseason play?
That was kind of my thing on some of these players. Like, everyone kept saying Michael Vick, and it's like, I get the rationale, but...
Yeah,
he did hit a home run off of Troy Percival that's still going.
Yeah, that's true.
That was unbelievable. Yeah. And I can't remember who the shot was, the video was of when they looked in the dugout and they just said, oh my God, something like that. You could read their lips.
Yeah.
It was an absolute laser and a bomb. And the thing is about Bonds, he got on base so much. That's the other part of it in the latter part of his career. Hell, Buck Showalter walked in with the bases loaded.
Yep.
So he was pretty tough to get out.
Yeah, let me just scroll down to postseason batting for Barry. 245 career batting average in the postseason. Did have a 936 OPS because he got not bad. The OPS on base 433, slug 503. But the perception, because it's not close to what he did during the regular season, is that he wasn't a good postseason hitter. But that's pretty darn good.
I watched him take BP a lot, guys. And if there was just an inch outside of the baseball, where a lot of guys, they swing the bat in BP no matter where it's at. It's their way to get loose. They'll take it the other way. They'll pull the ball. They'll take it up the middle. They're pros. They know what they're doing. Barry Bonds never swung at anything that was not in a teacup of the strike zone.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how he did it.
Good hand-eye coordination.
Oh, I'd say so.
And a good eye.
Yeah. Among other things.
Take it or leave it. If the Blues don't trade Buchnevich today, they will be missing out on an opportunity to maximize his value.
Leave it. I believe with a year left on the contract that they can still, if they want to move him during the offseason or move him next year as a rental, I believe they can do that. Now, it's going to be dependent upon how good he is, but if he's better next year than this year and they want to move him at the deadline, they traded Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko for number ones. I don't believe they'll get better than a number one for him today.
It's got to be a number one and a prospect, a good prospect. Yep. I think that would be the connection with Buchnevich. I'm going to take it. I think, though, if you get a stretch run for a team this year, and he's playing very well here in the last couple of weeks. Really, he's played well all season. But if you get him for his 2 stretch runs, I think you maximize his value the best you can.
Take it or leave it. Sam Adeniran will record the first hat trick in St. Louis City SC history.
I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I'm taking that.
Yeah,
all right, I'll take that too. Because I know you dive into old Sammy. I know you. The old Samster.
Well,
Big Sam.
If you asked me last year at this time, I'm going Santa Claus. But not anymore. I'm going to go Sam.
It's Big Sam all day right now. Take it or leave it. If Steve Carlton hadn't left the Redbirds, he'd be considered the best Redbird pitcher of all time. Now who's got Gibby blasphemy? Now who's talking out of school?
I think that if he put up the same numbers that he put up for his career, I think you'd have to take it.
The 70s, Randy, would have rewritten the history of the Cardinals. Jerry Royce, Carlton, Al was a fireman of the year.
Al thinks that the Cardinals were cost 4 division titles by trading Carlton.
I think that's fair.
I think you can make that argument.
I mean, they were close on a couple of those years, and if he has a great season on a couple of those years, that's going to count for, let's say, 10 wins at least, 10 to 15. It switches the narrative of what you think of the Cardinals in the 1970s.
Was it
undoubtedly
1972 that they won 58 and he won 27?
I think that was 72.
Yeah, so he was pretty good.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's one of the most amazing stats in baseball.
That is incredible, isn't it?
Lisa responds in all caps, did they lower the mound, though?
Yeah, Bob Gibson would be my guy. Bob Gibson for sure. And I would put the modern-day guy as Chris Carpenter.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that he was Bob Gibson, but boy, was he a big-game pitcher.
59 wins for the 72 Phillies, and Steve Carlton went 27-10 with a 1.97. Right. And here's the thing about Lefty. 329 wins. And that's, well, let me just give you the Philly numbers. Philadelphia, He goes 241 and 161 with a career 309, and he wound up with more than 4,000 career strikeouts.
Did you ever interview Steve Carlton?
I did, yeah. I did a Mike Shannon show with him.
How was he?
He is very compelling, and he's at a point now where he does so little. He's done things with you, and he would do anything for Mike, but he tells it like it is.
Yes. I'm not name dropping, but I went to dinner, so it is name dropping, with Bob Gibson, Tim McCarver, and Steve Carlton. And
awesome.
I just sat there and didn't say a word. I would throw out maybe a question or two and then listen to what those guys, and next thing you knew, it was 30 minutes later, and I'd say, well, what'd you guys think of this? And then all of a sudden, it would just go on for another 30 minutes. It was awesome.
Yeah, he's great. And Steve's son still lives here in town, right?
Yes, he's still here.
But I was entranced by speaking with Steve Carlton. Anything else, Matthew? You want to? All right, we'll get to the break, because coming up, we are going to take a little look inside the performances by both Kylie, and Matthew Liberatore yesterday down in Florida. That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you're looking for a great meal today, I want you to head on over to the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. Man, I'm such a fan of the Fenton Bar and Grill, and they have absolutely delicious lunches. And today, you can take advantage of their shrimp and sausage and chicken jambalaya. You can also get clam chowder for your Friday lunch if you want. The clam chowder at Fenton Bar and Grill is delicious. And not only are you going to get delicious food, but you're also going to have fantastic service. Alicia will be there. You can say hi to Kelly. You can say hi to Megan. The whole crew is going to be on hand today on Friday. The food is going to be great. The service is going to be great. And there's a lot of sports to talk about, isn't there? Tonight, the Cardinal game will be on. You'll be able to talk some Blues hockey, the trade deadline today. And everybody there is going to be a sports fan. So if you want to just hang out at the bar and talk some sports, you can at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com. And all you need to do to get there is go to the soccer park and follow Rudder Road to the Fenton Bar and Grill. It's absolutely delicious food. It's great service for lunch today, happy hour, maybe just to hang out during the weekend. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill. Tell them Randy sent you.
day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
In St. Louis, your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mac, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker. Brooke is out today. She is celebrating her bachelorette party down in the Valley of the Sun. Rough day yesterday for Kyle Gibson. Well, a rough start for Kyle Gibson. And Danny, especially for a pitcher that's been around this long. I know that we get bothered when people start off in spring training, and we're a reactionary society, and it's what we do. We react in sports talk radio. Gibson allows 5 hits, 4 runs, all 4 earned. He struck out 3 and didn't walk anybody in his 3 innings of work. I kind of tend to take the positive out of this, that he didn't walk anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, is that at least he's got his control. Yeah. He was getting ground balls, and that's the one thing that you're going to see a lot of this year, as we talked about. His ground ball rate is 51%. Defense has got to be good behind him. This is who he is. I mean, this is what you're going to get. You're not going to get a ton of strikeouts. He's going to give up his fair share of runs. And you look up, and he's probably giving you 5 or 6 innings and maybe 3 or 4 runs, and gives you a chance to win.
And Matthew Liberatore yesterday followed Gibson. He went 3 innings. He didn't allow a run. He did allow 5 hits, just like Gibson did. Struck out 2 and didn't walk anybody. And Liberatore was able to work around the hits that he did allow. And that's, in baseball these days, one of the things that people have difficulty with. A lot of times, you see a pitcher start to spiral downward when they get a couple of runners on, when they get somebody in scoring position. He pretty much stood his ground yesterday, Liberatore did.
I love him in the bullpen. I'd rather see him in the bullpen rather than the rotation. Now, the Cardinals are talking about a 6-man rotation, which would put him in there. I don't know if you guys agree. I look at this as being a really big year for him. Mm-hmm. They've had a chance to see him now for a couple of years. They get a good look at him every single day up close, and he's got to make the next jump. This is an important year for him, because look at the rotation for next year. There's, 1 guy or 2 guys that would be under contract. You got Sonny Gray and Michaelis.
Yep.
So there's going to be spots open, and this is when he needs to make that jump to the next level.
And if he fails, if Zach Thompson fails, by the way, I think you have Mats for 1 more year, too.
Right? You're right.
But you also have options on Lynn and Gibson. So if they outperform a guy like Thompson or a guy like Liberatore, hopefully you'd be able to get something. And those guys' market values will go down if they don't succeed. But the Cardinals will have options. That's my point after the season. Not that they're all great, but they're going to be able to put 5 guys on the mound next season in 25.
So Lance Lynn goes tonight. This will be the Cardinals' first look at him. 19% of the fly balls that he gave up last year turned into a home run. 19%.
Yeah, that was really a bad situation in Chicago, and he was much better when he got to the Dodgers. And one of the things that they told Lance is, hey, just use your fastball. And he did, and once he committed to the fastball, especially in August, he was terrific.
There's another thing that I was told, not only about the lack of depth on his fastball, but they felt that maybe he was tipping pitches. And if that's the case, and those 2 things are happening, you would expect that you'd have a better year from Lance Lynn. You'd have to be. I mean, you look at how many home runs he gave up. Holy smokes, that's a ton of home runs.
44?
Yeah.
Cards and Nationals tonight, 5:05, as Dan mentioned. Lance Lynn does go for the Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Blues, we talked yesterday about Oskar Sundqvist and the trade deadline, and I said, I'd just extend him. And they did give Oskar Sundqvist a 2-year deal worth $3 million to remain a member of the Blues. And he's a guy you can win with. And ideally, you'd like to have him be on your 4th line. And he is an engine-type player. He drives play, and I'm really glad that the Blues did re-sign him.
And it's a guy that can help you in a stopgap, which is where you're at right now if you're the Blues. Call it a retool, call it a rebuild, whatever you want, but he's the kind of player that you know what you're going to get. Put him in the 4th line, let him do his thing, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a player that helps you, gives you minutes, and you know what you're going to get from what he brings to the table.
Tomorrow, the Blues are at Madison Square Garden, 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock face-off here on 101 ESPN. By the way, in that game last night, on the goal that was the hat trick goal for Timo Meier, It looked like both. Did it look to you like Kyrou and Thomas were just going for a Sunday afternoon skate?
I've seen that a time or two this year. Yeah, I've seen it. I thought Falk had another game that was disappointing. We were talking about it earlier. They're hamstrung with some of the contracts because of no trades with Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, Nick Leddy. I mentioned this earlier, too. The 8th seed in the playoffs last year had 95 points. The Blues have 67 with 19 to go. So do the math. They'd have to win 14 of the 19, and that's something they haven't done all season long. And it would be kind of crazy to think that they do it now.
Yeah, 28 points in 19 games does not seem realistic for this particular group. Don't forget you can tackle your 314-day plans with the Battlehawks on Thursday, March 14th at Ballpark Village. That's this coming Thursday, 314-day. Celebrate all things STL with a free 314-day Battlehawks Town Hall event with head coach Anthony Becht and Battlehawks brass. Brooke Grimsley will be the MC, and the event is free to attend and will feature fan favorite activities, ticket giveaways, exclusive merchandise, live music, and more. Plus, the Fast Lane is going to be broadcasting live from 2 to 6, courtesy of Sumner One. Get all the details now at 101ESPN.com. That's today's Fresh Take. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we're going to head back to New York, and Joe Vitale will join us to talk some Blues hockey on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Randy Carricker with you, and another rugged start for Cardinals starter Kyle Gibson yesterday down in Florida. He allowed 5 runs in 3 innings as the Cardinals fell to the Astros by a score of 6-3. Matthew Liberatore threw 3 scoreless innings. He looked terrific, and the Cardinals got home runs from Matt Carpenter and Jordan Walker. The Redbirds taking on Washington tonight, 5:05, and Lance Lynn will make his first appearance of the spring for the Cardinals.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen. Vitale views things a little differently. Just imagine how he looks at hockey. Whoa! This is The View from Vitale, brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Played the Devils last night. They play the Rangers tomorrow night. Another day in New York for the St. Louis Blues and the broadcast team, including Joe Vitale, who joins us now here on 101 ESPN. Brooke is at her bachelorette party, so it's Danny Mac and Randy with Joey. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Hey, Randy and Danny Mac. What's going on, boys? Doing great today. How are you?
Doing good. Okay, I have a question for you. I don't know if you've ever seen the play Hamilton on Broadway, but Alexander Hamilton died in a duel. He had to go across the river, and he was involved in a duel in New Jersey. His son also died in a duel. So in old-timey days, would Joe Vitale ever, with your personality, challenge somebody to a duel?
No, I don't have quick enough hands, and I guarantee I have like too many Legos or Tic Tacs from the kids in my pockets where it would kind of fiddle with my reaction time, Randy. I feel like I would pull out a toy gun from like a Lego set or something instead. It wouldn't end well. It just wouldn't end well.
No, and for somebody, if you have a duel, for somebody it is not going to end well. I think this is a given.
Exactly. No, I'm actually in New York now, obviously, and my two boys, my middle ones, Harper and Bodie, are with me. I was thinking about taking them to Hamilton. Have you guys seen is it appropriate for a 10 and 8-year-old?
Yes, it's fantastic. Seen it a couple times, yeah, and it'd be great. Basically, it's a history lesson.
Book of Mormon.
Yeah, well, Book of Mormon it would be fine too. But
yeah,
Book of Mormon, they may grow up pretty quickly. I saw that one. That Book of Mormon is one of those shows where you're like, oh, it's not that bad. I've seen it before. And then you go in there and you're like, oh, whoa, this I forgot about this part.
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot about this part.
Right.
You know, like I was watching Titanic with the kids 2 weeks ago. I'm like, no, guys, it's a great history. You know, you got to learn about it, da-da-da. I'm like, oh, that's not a great part. And then, of course, Kate Winslet scene, which I love when I was 10.
Me too.
Don't get me wrong. But, you know, you don't want your 10-year-olds to see that. You want to make your kids better than what you were. And I'll never forget being at the Crestwood Plaza. I was in 7th grade when that movie came out, and I just remember, like, I was with my mom and dad. I've never been so uncomfortable in my entire life when Jack decided to pull out the pencil and the canvas and go to work.
Hey, Joey, what's it like from a player's perspective, even a broadcaster? I've been there. It just blows me away every time. But being in the Garden in New York, what's it like for you?
Man, Danny, it is so awesome. I was walking home last night with the two boys from the Prudential Center, you know, after the Jersey game. And, of course, that wasn't a great game. But, you know, I said, hey, guys, you know, we're going to the Rangers game Saturday. And they're just like, oh, great. And, again, they're kids. They're 10 and 8. They have no idea. And I'm like, you know what, guys, you don't appreciate this now. But one day you're going to look back and you're going to appreciate this. I'm like, well, why? And I'm like, well, because the Rangers had good teams. I'm like, well, not just the Rangers, but you look at the New York Knicks. You look at boxers like Jack Dempsey. You look at, you know, performers like Billy Joel and Fish. I mean, so many wonderful, wonderful memories certainly have come, you know, within that building. And I think that that's what just makes it so special. You know, Danny, Randy, you guys walked in there. You walk in there, and there are certain places you just walk into, and you feel the history. You feel the genuine specialness. And that's definitely one of them. It kind of oozes off the walls. I'll never forget my first game there as a Penguin. It was only my second game. And you felt it. You felt the energy. You knew it right away. As a player, it's a bit of a different building because, you know, the lights are always on the ice. So you feel like the spotlight's on you. But then as you look into the crowd, you can really barely see the crowd. The crowd's actually quite dark. So it's kind of, you feel like you're kind of in a coliseum a little bit where you're like, the only people in the building are the players themselves, which is kind of an eerie, kind of fun feeling. But, you know, you go to the broadcast booth, you know, you see, you know, broadcasters like Joey Mick, the legends, and then you sit down, you hunker down. It's a great view of the game. And like I said, it's just the energy is it's really not comparable to really anything you've ever seen. It's not like a Vegas energy. I mean, Vegas energy is just like a boombox of a techno party, right? I mean, the Madison Square Garden, it's just this like old school, genuine energy of like the people that respect the building, respect the game. And then, of course, you just have to respect the history that's been there. It's just one of the best places to ever play a game.
Joey V, last night in New Jersey in the first period, at one point the Blues had been outshot 16-3. They were outshot 16-5. Meyer had a couple of goals, and it was 2-0 after a period. Was that success or that shot differential a product of the Devils being good or the Blues not being urgent?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of both. But if I had to put one on it, Randy, I think it's just the Blues. They're just in a tough spot right now. And, it's not an excuse. You can't make this an excuse because every team's going through it, including the New Jersey Devils. I mean, the New Jersey Devils, they held out Tyler Toffoli last night, one of their best players for trade-related reasons. They're in an 8-point back situation similar to the St. Louis Blues. They've just lost 3 in a row. They just had a coaching change. So you hate to say that the Blues are kind of licking their wounds, what's going on. But you know what? To me, the New Jersey Devils were the same. Just was one team was prepared and way more urgent than the other. And that, of course, was the New Jersey Devils. I think that they understand that with a new coach, they're feeling that new wave of energy that the Blues certainly felt under Berube, under Bannister. You kind of get this new voice and you kind of find another gear. A Devil team that, 2 nights prior lost to the best team right now in the league, in the Florida Panthers, by 1 goal, and they were close. They were close to tying that game up. So it was a game close enough where they felt like they could have won, but they didn't. And then, of course, the second game under Travis Green there, they decided that they came out with some energy and some spunk. And Timo Meier is a streaky kid. You know what I mean? He's had a slow start to the year, but when he gets going, you really have to look out. He's power forward, and that's the number one reason why Tom Fitzgerald signed him to an 8-year deal. So I would say it's definitely a combination. It's always a combination. But if I had to lean one way, this Blues team certainly is. They're in a bit of a transformation right now. They're in transition. Being around the team, there's a lot of players that just, heads down, and you just feel the energy just sucked out of this team right now, given everything going on with the year, how they keep slipping further and further back. And now with the trade deadline looming today, it's been on their mind. It just is. It's just a reality with the world we're living in, with social media and all the attention around players like Pavel Buchnevich and even players that, you're not hearing a ton about. People are probably like, well, it's just Buchnevich. Everyone else should be fine. Well, wrong. I mean, we're talking about players like Brandon Saad. I know they still have term on their deal, or Marco Scandella, who's a UFA. There's players that are UFAs. There's players that term that, but everyone's up for grabs. And of course, agents and families are always talking to them and, wondering what's going on. Hey, my friend heard this. Hey, grandma said she heard this at church. It just goes on and on and on. So it's really hard for players to be really dialed in. But this has certainly not been a Blues team that has been on this entire road trip. But you are hoping that after today, they can settle in tomorrow in the Madison Square Garden against the Rangers.
So 2 p.m. is the trade deadline. From a player's perspective, you touched upon it a little bit there, Joey, but what's the anxiety like as you get ready to play a game tomorrow, but yet the trade deadline is kind of hovering over your head?
It's really tough. You don't want to look at your phone, but you have to look at your phone. When someone calls you and it's your wife, and you get all fired up when you answer, you're like, what? And your wife's like, oh, what's going on? Like, why would you call me right now? It's like, oh, because I wanted to call just to check in and see how you're doing. It's like, but why would you call me? It's so stupid. Like, it could be anyone call. It's just, listen, us hockey players, Dan, I talked about this the other day. We're irrational people, and we always look to pass the blame to someone else. And, of course, your wife is your number one target. So, I mean, that's what it's like. You're constantly on edge. You're constantly mad at people calling you. If someone sends you a text about, hey, I heard this rumor swirling, first of all, you get all amped up about it. And then, of course, you get all angry about it because is it true? Is it not true? Why would you put this in my head? It's a tough time. It's a really, really tough time. I will say it is something when it's all over, said and done, it is a breath of fresh air. I talked to Oskar Sundqvist about this yesterday. He's certainly a player that we can call safe now as he signed his new 2-year deal. But Doug Armstrong, he ended up calling him, Wednesday morning, so the day before the game yesterday. And he basically said, what do you want me to do with you? And Oskar said to him, he said, I want to stay here. I want to be a part of this rebuild. I don't want to trade it. And Doug said, okay, we'll see what we can do. We'll call you later. And so Oskar then, of course, goes the entire day, and he's looking at 2 ends of the spectrum. I mean, all day sitting around with no news. Am I going to be traded, or am I going to sign an extension with the team that I want to be a part of? Now, of course, it worked out well for him. He signed an extension, but he told me, talking to him yesterday before the game, it was a very, very stressful Wednesday where, it's like you're looking at just that, two ends of the spectrum. Am I going to go somewhere else, or am I going to want to be here? So it's hard. The agents don't necessarily get a lot of information either these days. A lot of it's done internally until the kind of final decision's made. So it's a difficult thing. It's an emotional one, and I know that all the players, coaches, everyone around is just certainly looking forward to that time being over. And the good news is, starting tomorrow night, whatever happens, whether 89's in your lineup or not, whether 20's here, whether Scandella's here, whether small pieces like Sammy Blair here, the one good thing is I'll never forget, every coach always has the same speech the game after the deadline. They come in, they say, guys, it's done, it's over, this is our group. This is the group that's going to have to get it done, and that's a great feeling.
Hey, Joey V, that was an interesting note about Doug Armstrong and Oskar Sundqvist. Aside from a superstar-type player, you've been around the league. Is that typical what Doug Armstrong did? Hey, he goes to Sundqvist, what do you want me to do with you? And is that something that builds trust and loyalty on the part of a player when Oskar says, yeah, I want to stay here, and then he does?
First of all, it's not normal. Heck no at all, Randy. It's not normal at all, which I think is even cooler that Doug did that. I think that he will not do that to a lot of players. I think Oskar falls in the situation where, Doug wants to keep him, but also he wants to get assets as well. I think it's in reality what Doug wants to do with Oskar would probably have been, maybe do you trade him? Do you get maybe an asset or a draft pick, and then do you re-sign him in the summer? Oskar is a special player because, and this is why the communication was there, and not every player is like this, because he's a player that is desirable and teams want, but also you want too. As soon as you let him go, you realize, what do we need? We need what we just let go in Oskar Sundqvist. A working guy, a fourth liner, wins faceoffs, killing penalties, blocking shots, wonderful attitude. And listen, that's only the stuff on the ice. I've been around Oskar for 5-6 years now. What they love the most about Oskar is he is going to be a huge part of the culture they are creating moving forward with this group. And Oskar said it himself, and this is what he told Doug. He said, I want to be a part of turning the ship around. I want to be a part of this rebuild. I want to be a part of the personality of this team moving forward. He said all the right things, and he is committed to the right things. So, no, it's not normal for general managers to do that. I think Oskar falls in that special bracket of he is a desirable player, but we still want him as well. But I think it's great that Doug did that, and he got a little bit of an insight from Oskar what he wanted to do, because last thing at the end of the day is if Doug wants to keep a player like Oskar here, but if a player wants to go, well, then it's kind of a lose-lose. So the communication was certainly great there, and I think it worked out well for the Blues fans.
Joey, what's your gut? What will the Blues look like after 2 p.m. today?
I don't think we're going to see much changes. I just don't. And personally, I think, the big name, of course, is, Pavel Buchnevich. We've seen so much action leading up to today. Jake Gensel, of course, is gone. The defenseman and the Noah Hannafins. Casey Middlestad was kind of thrown out of nowhere. Buffalo surprised a lot of people there. I just think that the majority of the teams that were suitors in Pavel Buchnevich are pretty much, to me, all locked up. A big one being Carolina Hurricanes. I know that was swirling around quite a bit, and I just can't see from a Western Conference standpoint, Doug Armstrong dealing Pavel Buchnevich to a Las Vegas or a Colorado. I don't know why you would want to make a team like that so close to you that much better for this year, next year, and maybe beyond, given what they do with his contract. There's too much great upside to Pavel Buchnevich. I don't see it happening. Even if it doesn't happen now, he's still extremely valuable at the draft. You can always deal him at the draft. And quite frankly, every team's going to be in play at the draft versus only maybe, say, 3 or 4 right now. So I think his value goes up then too. So he's a prized possession. You have him now. He's a great player. He can still help your team make a push for the playoffs, which the Blues are still feeling right now. And he can make your team even better next year if you don't deal him at the draft. So to me, Dan, my gut is I think the majority of all the league, it's done. I think the majority of everything you've seen is done. I don't think we're going to see any Jacob Markstrom deals or any other kind of big names kind of thrown around. And I certainly think for this Blues team, I think they're in a decent spot where they don't need to be dealing as much as everyone else has around them. And I think tomorrow night in the Madison Square Garden, the team that we saw last night in the Prudential Center versus the Devils is going to be pretty doggone close to the team we see against the Rangers tomorrow night.
Finally, Joey, the Friday matinee for Hamilton is great. The tickets are more accessible and cheaper. And secondly, if I'm 8 and 10 years old and my dad takes me to New York, he scores major points by taking me to Ray's Pizza for lunch or dinner.
Ray's Pizza, I'm going to mark that down right now. Is that R-A-Y-S, Ray's?
Yes, yep. They're all over the place, and they're delicious.
Okay. We're going to Ray's. I have to figure out the situation, the Lego situation. My mom and dad brought the boys yesterday. They went to the Lego Superstore. They're building Legos on my bed right now. I don't know if they understand that they got to hop on a plane to get back home to St. Louis. I don't think this is going to work out too well. But you know what? I'm just going to let them figure that out on their own, and we'll go from there. We'll share a piece of Ray's pie, talk it over then, and then we'll figure it out later.
This will be an unforgettable trip. Your kids will remember it forever, and you will definitely remember it forever, especially with your parents being there. So enjoy it, savor it, and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, boys. You guys have a great weekend as well. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Joey. Joey V with us on 101 ESPN.
Always fun to learn things about Joey.
Yeah.
You got to go to Little Italy or somewhere like that, get some pasta. You know, that'd be right up his alley. So
no doubt.
There's always places to go and eat and enjoy yourself in New York.
Yeah, I wonder if Alexander Hamilton had to deal with accidentally pulling a Lego out of his pocket.
Probably not.
Maybe that's why he died.
Probably not, Randall. Probably not. But you've seen Hamilton, and it was just enormously popular. And now you can get a ticket. Before, you couldn't get a ticket.
No, you couldn't. And when I went the first time, I didn't really pick it up. But then the second time, you kind of know what you're doing. And I was not, as you know, a student who really paid close attention during history classes. So it was kind of like an entertaining history class.
You brought in your report card when I was doing the show with you and Michelle a few days a week, and you brought that thing in, and I didn't believe you with some of the poor grades that you had, and it was actually worse than I thought.
It was. I was. Put it this way: I had a Kyle Gibson type first inning.
Little good, little bad.
But everything worked out.
Everything worked out in the end.
I think everybody at Parkway North had an idea as to what was going to happen. So,
well, you turned out just fine.
Well, some people would agree with that. Some people might vehemently disagree. We'll see.
Oh, no. You turned out fine.
Danny Mack, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker, and we need a fighter for the fight. You can text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO, and you text in your name and the word fight, and maybe Matthew will pick you to fight me next year on 101 ESPN.
Tired of your same old daily fantasy? Well, Underdog Fantasy has a new way to play in Missouri, and that's Pick'em Champions. That's right, there's a Pick'em game in Missouri, and it's the best way to play. You just pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams, select higher or lower on the player's stat projections, and once your entry is ready, you pick your entry fee, and you're entered in alongside other underdogs. As long as you hit your picks, you're getting paid out. The problem for me is lately I haven't been hitting my picks, but that doesn't matter here because there's always new ways for me to play on Underdog Fantasy. Usually I'm going with an NBA entry. Sometimes I like to throw in some Blues picks in there. Well, guess what? MLB season's here, and Underdog Fantasy has you covered there as well. That means there's going to be days where you can put together entries where it's Blues and Cardinals. You can even tack on an NBA entry if you want to there. That's the thing about Underdog Fantasy. They have all the ways for you to play. And again, if you can't get an entry in before the game, you can always put in live entries with Underdog Fantasy. So many ways to play, super easy to play, and even easier to get started. Just go to their easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code ROCC, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. Plus, they'll give you a mystery special pick to use on your first Pick'em entry. You can take an entry from 3 to 4, and that's going to take your payout from 6x to 10x, just like that with your first Pick'em entry. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to get your first deposit of $10 or more up to $100 match, plus that special pick. Must be 18 plus in President's Day where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org. This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues last night fall to the Devils 4-1. They'll be back in action on Saturday night, facing off against the Rangers. 6:30 p.m. puck drop, 5:30 p.m. pregame right here on 101 ESPN. Also, your trade deadline for the NHL ends at 2 p.m. today. You can join us later on at 9:15 when Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic joins Danny and Randy to talk about the deadline and the Blues. Also coming up this weekend, St. Louis City SC is back in action, facing off against Austin FC before they travel down to Austin. St. Louis City SC head coach Bradley Carnell joins Randy and Danny coming up at 8:45 here on the show. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the fight. This is 101 ESPN. Matt Rocchio, Dan McLaughlin. Randy has stepped out of the studio. And our fighter today on this Friday, kind of an ugly morning, is Drew. Drew, welcome to 101 ESPN.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Long-time listener, first-time playing.
Love it. That was going to be my next question. Have you ever played Randy, or have you ever been in the gauntlet? You've answered that question. Are you ready to take on Randy?
I am ready as ever.
All right, here's question 1. Which Major League Baseball franchise has the most World Series losses with 14? Is it the Yankees, the Dodgers, or the Giants?
Oh, I think Yankees have the most by far. So let me go Giants. Final answer.
All right, Giants, a final answer. Question 2.
When Butler made back-to-back NCAA tournament finals, they lost to Duke and which other team? Was that Villanova, UConn, or UNC?
Well, since I have absolutely no idea, I know who all those teams are, but let's go. It was the last question or answer. USC.
UNC.
UNC. Let's go that one. That sounds good.
All right.
All right, who is the all-time NHL career leader in penalty minutes with just under 4,000? Is it Bob Probert, Dave Tiger Williams, or Marty McSorley?
Oh, man. He's a decent hockey fan. Let's go Dave. Let's go Dave.
Dave Tiger Williams. All right, question 4. Here we go.
Marshall Faulk's 3 consecutive Offensive Player of the Year awards from 99 to 2001 surprisingly did not set a record, as this running back was the first to do it across 78, 79, and 80. Was that O.J. Simpson, Walter Payton, or Earl Campbell?
Ooh. Okay. Juice doing his thing then. I feel like Randy's going to make a joke about this, so I'm just going to go with OJ because it sounds good today.
All right, O.J. Simpson, final answer?
Yes, final answer.
All right, we have our score. We will bring in Randy Carricker. Drew, what did you think of your first time on the fight so far?
It's exciting. I'm just excited to be here, but I don't know. I'm about 50-50.
Do you think the nerves got to you a little bit?
Yeah.
That's what happens. It's always different. Everyone says it. Randy Carricker back in studio. Randy, you're facing off against Drew today. Say hi to Drew.
Drew, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, I'm well. Just heading into work on this rainy Friday.
Well, I hope you're being safe out there, and thanks so much for listening, and thanks for playing. We do appreciate it.
All right.
All right, question 1, Randall.
Yes, sir.
Which Major League Baseball franchise has the most World Series losses with 14?
You know, Dan.
Yeah.
The Doyers would have had a dynasty if they wouldn't have been in the World Series against the Yankees all the time, in the 50s especially. I'm going to go with the Brooklyn/LA Doyers.
On to question 2, Rock.
When Butler made back-to-back NCAA tournament finals, they lost to Duke and which other team?
Duke was the one that they almost won it, wasn't
Yeah, Gordon Hayward,
Yeah.
Like half court, the three-quarter court heave off the rim, I believe.
Okay. I am going to use the lifeline here.
Was that Villanova?
I don't think so.
UConn or UNC?
I'm just... I think UConn went a time without winning after Jim Calhoun and before Kevin Ollie. And so I'm going to go with UNC. I'm going to go with North Carolina.
Final answer?
Final answer, sir.
Question 3. Who is the all-time NHL career leader in penalty minutes with just under 4,000?
Oh, Danny, back in my day.
Yeah.
We had Steve Durbano. The Canucks had Tiger Williams. He was a monster. I loved Tiger Williams. He was one of my favorite players. I believe it's still Tiger Williams. I don't think anybody has passed him, and probably ever will pass him, for the most penalty minutes in NHL history.
All right, Randy. And Marshall Faulk's 3 consecutive Offensive Player of the Year awards from 99 and 2001 surprisingly did not set a record, as this running back was the first to do it across 78, 79, and 80.
This running back?
Running back.
78, 79, and 80. I am going to go with we're the Houston Oilers. I'm going to go Love You Blue. I'm going to go number 34. I'm going to go Earl Campbell.
All right, Matthew, what do we have here with some of the answers, the winners, that stuff?
We do, in fact, have a winner in today's fight. Does Randy Carricker finish off the week with a win, or does Drew, longtime listener, first-time player, come off with a victory, maybe a little beginner's luck? Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
I'm sorry, Drew. No beginner's luck today. He beat you 3-1 today.
Gotcha. Hey, it's all good, man. It's a pleasure just playing and listening to Mega Mind do his thing.
There you go.
Drew, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Yes, you guys have a great one.
You too.
Let's go through those answers. Which Major League Baseball franchise has the most World Series losses with 14? You think they played in so many that it would be the Yankees, but it actually, and it's a close one. The Dodgers have 14. The Yankees have 13. The Giants have 12. Number 4? The St. Louis Cardinals with 8 World Series losses. So it drops off precipitously after you lose the original New York teams.
We'll have to look up how many of the Dodger losses are to the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
When Butler made back-to-back NCAA tournament finals, they lost to Duke, and it was Kemba Walker and UConn. That was the final Jim Calhoun championship. I actually got to watch the first round games, and the amount, the potpourri of words that Jim Calhoun used to talk to Kemba Walker, unbelievable. Who is the all-time NHL career leader in penalty minutes with just under 3,917 penalty minutes for Dave Tiger Williams at the very top of the list. And Marshall Falk, who won 3 consecutive Offensive Player of the Year awards from 99 to 01, but he was not the first to do it. It was Earl Campbell, in fact, with the Houston Oilers, who won it in 78, 79, and 1980. A 3-1 win for Randy Carricker in the fight today. Thank you very much for your time today, Drew.
Hey, it's good to be here. You guys have a great weekend. Dad, it's good to hear your voice on the radio, man.
I appreciate that very much. These guys make it easy, and happy to be here. Thank you for the kind words.
Yep. Thank you, Drew. Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, St. Louis City SC in action tomorrow at Austin. We're going to talk to head coach Bradley Carnell next on the opening drive.
It's taken back by St. Louis. This is Pompeo. Plays it ahead. Adeniran. Go! On a dead run from the sharp angle. Samuel Adeniran, second of the year, and it's all St. Louis City now.
I think we took the right conclusions out of the game in Houston. The way we pressed wasn't good, so we had a lot of meetings with the strikers, meetings with the defensive players, and we were talking everything through. We are holding each other accountable, so everybody was like also very open and very honest to talk everything through, what everybody needs to do better. And in the end of the day, you have to bring it on the pitch, and in the end of the day, that's what we did.
That is the head coach of St. Louis City SC, Bradley Carnell. His team is at Austin tomorrow, and Coach joins Dan McLaughlin and Randy Carricker now on 101 ESPN. Bradley, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for the time this morning. Let's start with this. I want to react to that comment. You go out on the road to Austin, and how do you get the press? Like you said, it was terrific, and you guys rebounded from the loss in Houston. How do you get the press working on the road at Austin?
Yeah, I think that's just a mindset. You know, I don't think it's something that you want to switch on and switch off. I think that's who we are and who we want to be. So, you know, we got the game plan slightly, off against Houston, and we put that to bed and put that aside from us and said we never want to go down that road again. And I think New York City was a good response. It was an important response. And, very early in our season, we wanted to set the tone right and get us training in the right way.
Coach, how much did Leuven change the game this past weekend, and how much can he change it going forward?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think, to be fair to Edu, he's had a bit of a disruptive preseason. And he's had a bit of time off because of, his green card paperwork and everything. He missed 2 weeks of preseason. So it's been a sluggish start to him. And, we've been relying on everybody else to pick up the pieces in his absence. So, but when you can see he starts to get sharper, starts to get fitter, he starts to pull the strings more in the midfield, he becomes that two-way player that we know he can do as the 6, as the 8, as the 10. And then he contributes in big ways. We know at set pieces he can create and add a lot of value out there. But, I would, yes, I think Edu was really good on this past weekend, but I think collectively this might have been our best ever game that we've put on, here at City Park and possibly ever.
Wow. That's a big statement, because I was going to ask you, with the injuries and with, like you've said, just some of the hiccups and obviously the changes in the roster, that's a pretty big statement. Why was that your best game?
It was just very convincing. We from the very first minute, there was an energy, there was an intensity that was unbearable on the night for New York City, and we forced massive turnovers. We challenged them in many ways. They're a very good pressing team as well. They're a very good counter pressing team. So we had to match like for like and then go some more. They have a very influential midfield with James Sands and Keaton Parks. So these guys, once you start letting them pull the strings and get it to their attacking players who love to have the ball to their feet, who love to dribble past you and what have you. So, we managed to mitigate those spaces. We managed to create the overloads. We managed to play with intensity. We managed to win the physical duels and the battles that we pride ourselves on. So, and I just thought that, I reflect back to the first, now we've played like 4 competitive games, right? 2 in the Champions League, 2 in the Champions Cup, 2 in the MLS. I think last year in the 4 games, we were pretty much building a statue for Roman Berkey outside the stadium already, because there were just so many times that he came to save us while we're trying to figure ourselves out. I think the boys have worked really hard in the off-season to try and shore up a little bit more of our defensive transitional struggles over the last year. And I think you can see that. Roman's not having to make those big, massive saves, or the frequency of those saves. And we hope that's a trend line that continues. For sure, this is a game, and the game is, the soccer ball is round. Sometimes you're at the top, sometimes you're on the side, and sometimes you're at the bottom. So we're going to have all of those emotions this year. Right now, we're just trying to trend things in the right direction and mitigate through some injury problems and some personnel issues. But it's good to have the bodies we are. Welcome sight back to the squad is potentially Rasmus Alm, who makes a return to potential minutes this weekend.
Good.
You mentioned Berkey. What is it about him that makes him elite? He's been at times just an incredible player to watch. What is it about him?
Yeah, I think he has a certain aura about him of control, ease, intensity at the same time. So, he pushes the teammates in a way that holds us accountable. He poses questions to me as a coach to not just agree and not to just go with the flow. He asks good questions, and I think we have a roster that's inquisitive, curious, and he's the one at the forefront of that, and he's not just a leader because he's a good-looking guy. He really has a good ton of experience under his belt. He's, played with some of the best coaches or played under some of the best coaches in the world football. And he's assisting us all along this journey that we're trying to get to where he once was. So, he's a great inspiration for the rest of the squad.
Bradley Carnell, head coach of St. Louis City SC, with us on 101 ESPN. And Bradley, you opened up this franchise's existence last year in Austin. How different are the teams and the circumstances now as opposed to last year when you got going?
Yeah, listen, it's an emotional start. Last year, we're going into the unknown. We're going to a place we've, never been to. We're trying to figure ourselves out. We knew we built and created an identity in preseason last year, but how that looks on match day one and what we saw was a lot of grit, resolve, determination to come back in the game, to win the game. And then all of a sudden, we just wanted to, prove that we belong in the league to be competitive. Now, we didn't know we'd go on to win the West in the regular season, but, all we wanted to do is be competitive. And again, similar way to how we started, our preseason this year, but knowing that the foundations are built, the culture has been set, the standards have been set. Now we're trying to meet those standards and maybe even better them, right? So how does that look? We make some successful transfers, with a Joe Vitale, measure success by selling players, measure success by bringing in players, measure success by promoting academy players. So there's all ways to measure success. It's not always just points on the board. So I thought we got off to a great start. Joe Vitale always wanted to head back to Europe, and he put himself in the best light to shine and get a move abroad again. So we helped him along his journey. And then we make some key transfers. We bring in a Thomas Totland, Chris Durkin and Nicholas Durr, just to all add competition and plug up certain spaces where we felt that we needed some areas of opportunity. So, for us, we measure preseason success. Nashville, we have a really good showing. So, we played a bunch of teams, New York City, LA Galaxy, LAFC, New York Red Bulls with a new powerhouse with Emil Forsberg. So, we measured ourselves against really good opponents, and we came out on top, on a lot of those games. So heads into the season, into the regular season, and we feel competitive, and that's right where we want to be.
Bradley, when you have that culture established, as you mentioned, and you bring in three new players, from a coaching perspective, is it easier to get guys assimilated into the program when everybody understands the expectations and your current players, your established players, can relay what the expectations are to the new guys?
Yeah, we're not just signing players for the sake of signing good players, right? We're signing players for the sake of playing in a certain style and in a certain way. So, there's more to meet the eye because we scout these players, we watch games, we talk to them, we check backgrounds, we make sure these are good guys coming in, we make sure they're playing a certain way. We have a scouting department now in the meantime that's, not just based on Lutz and myself. We have a scouting department now, and these guys are, working through the night to try and find us the best possible players in our system, not just the best possible players available. So that's a big piece of our sort of recruitment strategies now. And Thomas Totland, I think you can see Chris Durkin just by, the sheer energy and the willpower and the determination these guys possess, and they're good soccer players. So, there's a lot that goes into it than meets the eye.
Coach, you had a gauntlet of a schedule to begin this year, so many games in really a short amount of time. So how does that change, and how do you handle your rotation going forward?
Yeah, listen, going into it, I'm like, as a coach, you want to play competitive games, and it's maybe, naive on my part, but I want to be playing games, right? So regardless of scheduling, it's always great to play games. If you ask any player, play games Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, but once you're in the thick of it and have 4 games in 11 days, and then you start we lost 3 center backs before or just after our Houston game. We lost 3 center backs. We're like, oh, okay, now the landscape changes now. Now you're wishing for extra days to try and, get these guys on the mend. And so the schedule comes across and it just, eats you up alive. And there's many teams that fall into this they dig themselves a bit of a hole, and it's tough to get out, especially early on in the season where, you're figuring out fitness levels and baselines of players. Guys are not really up to full speed. And you can go around the MLS and just see how many players or how many teams are very, very thin at the moment based on the early scheduling, because you're playing against teams who are in the middle of their seasons, talking, Mexican teams or what have you in the CONCACAF region. And it becomes tough to now, everyone's a, prideful bunch, and we want to compete and measure ourselves with the best. So everyone empties the tank, and sometimes, you put yourself in harm's way. So it's a good learning curve for us.
Having said that, what do you expect with the matchup with Austin?
I think it's going to be a real tough game. They go to Seattle and get a shutout. They earned a point there on the road, and I'm sure they'll bring that back with a bit of momentum and a bit of belief. For sure, their home opener against Minnesota didn't go according to plan, but they're a hardworking bunch. They have a true identity, a true philosophy. They might be, riddled with a few problems, but I think every team is riddled with a few problems. At the end of the day, I always say the Western Conference and us included in that is a clash of styles. We're the only team who played this way in the Western Conference. So at the end of the day, all we need to do is focus on us and make sure we try and roll out a performance like we did against New York City, and stay true to who we are regardless of opponent.
Now, Coach, you're a busy guy. I am curious, though, how often do you get the chance to break away and watch some of the academy teams that City is developing right now?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the off season, it's not that easy. When we were in preseason now, we had the stream going on with the UPSL guys, and everyone I have one distinct picture that you asked this, like the whole team in the meal room in preseason. We streaming the USL game. And they played a semifinal and a final over 2 days or over a weekend, and we were there, and just to see the whole team watching this and everyone being part of it. And then you see guys who were with us in preseason, spending some time like a Tyson Pierce and what have you. So that's an integral part of who we are and what we stand for. So it's great to see guys developing, and yeah, for sure, we love to be part of the academy. We love to be, connecting with the coaches. We love to be, Dale Shelley does an amazing job with the link up between the departments and getting us integrated with each other and keeping us, in touch with each other. John Hackworth is another one now who has his new role as technical director. Now is like, a bridge between all those departments. So, while we've set up some new structures, we're trying to intensify the dynamic and trying to intensify the outreach to the academy. But for me, I enjoy being part of that.
Coach, great to hear your voice. Thanks so much for the time. Good luck at Austin tomorrow, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great chatting, and hope to catch up soon.
You bet. Thank you, sir. That's Bradley Carnell. He's the head coach at St. Louis City SC, doing a magnificent job and a really good guy.
Have you been down to the facilities all that much?
Not a lot. I haven't been down there yet this year, but they are pristine.
Oh,
They're
my
spectacular.
Goodness. My son was taking on one of the academy teams for City SC, and just the facility and the amount of money they put into this and the fact that they're getting some of the best players in our area. Randy, we're going to see it. There's going to be kids that trained with SC that come through and wind up playing for the big league club, if you will, the MLS team. And it's going to be fun to see. It's going to be a local flavor or a flavor of kids that decided to transfer here to St. Louis to get some of the best coaching in the world. And you're going to see a lot of homegrown products, man, as we move forward with this. It's going to be really cool to see.
It's going to be great. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got your Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you're considering selling your home, you need to get in touch with my friend Gloria Liu, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And here's why. Because her name is her promise, and it says it all. Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria's mastered the home selling promise by guaranteeing upfront and in writing to sell your home at your agreed to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, and that's guaranteed. Most agents don't compare. In fact, no agents compare in the area to Gloria Liu. She has solutions for every kind of home seller. If you're somebody who wants a fast sale with no hassles, well, Gloria's got a 24-hour cash offer solution that's a great option to consider. You don't have any showings? No costly repairs to pay for, and you get to pick out the closing date. You always get the highest cash offer bid from Gloria's database of buyers in what she calls her cash offer bid box. If you're sitting around the house talking this weekend and you decide, you know what, we need to downsize. To sell your current home, call Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. We have Blues hockey tomorrow for you here on 101 ESPN. The Blues taking on the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden, 5:30 with the pregame, and then 6:30 with the faceoff. The Blues lost last night by a score of 4-1 in New Jersey, and things did not go well. Timo Meier scoring a couple of goals in the first period to put New Jersey ahead. Blues at one point had been outshot 16-3, and the coach, Drew Bannister, talked about that first period.
Yeah, I mean, I thought... it wasn't so much about them and more how we played. I thought we were really, really light in the first period. I thought, on the D zone, we didn't. There was a lot of stick checking instead of going through bodies, ending plays, which probably would have alleviated a lot of the issues of having to defend. And then we find ourselves down 2-0, and then we decide that, we want to be physical, and I thought. We spent less time on our D zone the second and the third, and we were able to maintain or get a forward check going and spend some time in the offensive zone, but it was too little too late by that time.
Dan, we had Tom Stillman in studio last June, and we asked him how the team was going to be, and he said not elite, and they aren't elite. No. And they're still on the outskirts of the possibility of being in the playoffs. They're almost to where Doug Armstrong expected them to be. I don't think Doug Armstrong expected during training camp that he was going to have to make a coaching change, but this team is probably right where it should be in the standings.
Yeah, what concerned me was when we visited with Joey, and he said, guys are down, Dauber's down, heads are down. This is a team that's not that far out of the playoffs. You play for each other is what you hear always in hockey. But you just look at how things are going. They have not outshot their opponent 5-on-5 in the last 19 straight. Just one time in the last 26. And I guess if you're a Blues fan, the big question is today, what do they look like at 2:01 St. Louis time as the trade deadline is ticking towards 2 o'clock?
And you will be able to tune in during the fast lane and find out exactly what the Blues do. Maybe they'll make a move before 2 o'clock, and BK and Ferrari will have all the action. Will be all over what the Blues are doing during the course of today. Cardinals and Nationals tonight, 5:30, I think 5:05 actually, St. Louis time. Lance Lynn will make his spring debut.
Looking forward to seeing it. Good old Lance coming back to St. Louis. They have gradually eased him into spring training, which is no surprise when you have guys that are in their mid-30s, a lot of mileage on him. Let him build up a little bit on the side and see what he's got. See if there's tilt with the fastball, because he's going to need that to keep the ball out of the air. Mentioned it earlier, 19% of the balls that were in the air last year against Lance Lynn went over the wall. So
amazing.
You can't have that happen this year.
That's 1 out of every 5 balls.
Yes.
That were hit in the air.
Yeah.
Were home runs. That's incredible.
He was averaging about 2 home runs allowed per game.
It's crazy. That's wild. Now, don't blame me for this, by the way.
Go for it.
Astros beat the Cardinals yesterday 6-3. Gibby, that's the way it's written, tagged for 4 earned runs. Goldie, Carlson, Wynn all struck out twice. The Cardinals did have a couple of solo homers. Jordan Walker hit one, and Marp hit one. And the Cardinals fall to the Astros by a score of 6-3. Matthew Liberatore, by the way, in his 3 innings of work, scoreless ball.
That was my fault.
Oh, Gibby?
I put Gibby.
Well, social media is going to be mad at you.
Good. Good.
He should be. Yeah, they will be. They're going to go all after you, Rock.
Bring it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kyle Gibson has a ground ball rate last year of 51%. There were a couple of balls he got through on the ground. Then he got outs on the ground. And I think that's what you can expect if you're a Cardinal fan. Look for ground balls. And if he's right and they play good defense on the infield, they're going to have a chance when he's on the mound. And I don't expect a lot from him, Randy. I expect 5 to 6 innings, keep the team in the game, and have a chance to win late.
He is a back-of-the-rotation guy. That's what they signed. And actually, that's the money back-of-the-rotation guys make. $10, $11 million is a 4th or 5th starter now.
Absolutely. That's 100% right.
The Valley Conference Tournament got underway yesterday. Missouri State eliminating Murray State with a 60-35 rout. Belmont over Valpo, 86-61. Evansville knocks off Illinois State 59-53. And in double overtime, UIC over SIU 84-82, and they're getting ready to go again today over at Enterprise Center. You can go to the Valley Hangout at the Ballpark Village, and then you can watch games starting at noon today. Indiana State and Missouri State, followed by Northern Illinois and Belmont. And then there's a break. And then session number 2 today, Game 7, Drake and Evansville. That ought to be really entertaining. And then Bradley and Illinois-Chicago at 8:30 tonight. And you can get tickets today at archmadness.com, or you can get tickets at the gate over at Enterprise Center.
This is a big deal for St. Louis, and I'm glad that they extended the contract to keep the tournament in St. Louis. And I say it's a big deal for St. Louis because it's become a habit for these teams and their following to come to St. Louis. What does that mean? That means they're spending money. Mm-hmm. You need this tournament to stay in St. Louis, and it is. Worked those games for a number of years. The conference is run beautifully, so looking forward to seeing the games today.
It should be a lot of fun. There's your Rush Hour Reset on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we're going to talk about the trade deadline with our Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic. He is next with Dan and Randy on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you're headed down to the Arch Madness, you might want to just hop on the Metrolink and make it down there. I'll tell you what, it's easy. It only costs $5 to get a round-trip ticket. You can park at any of the free lots, whether it's at Richmond Heights or maybe you want to pick it up at Clayton or Forest Park. Wherever you want to go, you can make your way down to Enterprise Center on Metrolink. It's so easy to get there. And I'm telling you, public transportation is such a boon for a community, and we have a terrific public transportation system here in St. Louis with the Metro system. And a healthy Metro is vital to the viability not only of sports fans, but to having a great Metro area that brings big business to town. Companies, MLS, for example, wanted to have public transportation that came to their stadium. That was a big part of us getting an MLS team, and companies love to have the ability of their employees to get to work, and you can do it with Metro. It really is fantastic. Learn more about Metro, and don't let preconceived notions hold you back. Give Metro a chance and experience the benefits for yourself. In short, thanks to Metro, you don't have to drive to thrive.
Notes and nuggets. It's time for the Rutherford Report with our Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford. Brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Trade deadline is today at 2 o'clock St. Louis time in the National Hockey League, and our Blues insider from The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford, the great Jeremy Rutherford, joins us now on the Celebrity Line. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well, guys. Doing well. Hey, and going into this interview, can we set something up here?
Mm-hmm.
I remember a few years ago I was on the phone with Kevin Wheeler doing an interview when the Blues signed Torrey Krug. So we're doing the interview, and he said, JR, we got some breaking news here. The Blues have signed Krug. So we need a code word. Like if I yell banana real loud, that means I'm running to go.
Banana it is.
All right.
Sounds good. Anything shaking?
Not at the moment. And I've been making the phone calls. Just traded text with Pavel Buchnevich's agent, Todd Diamond, and just curious, does he expect anything to happen today with Pavel Buchnevich? And he said, I've maintained all along that I think he stays. So we'll see. Sometimes the agents are informed. They do know what's going on, but all it takes is one phone call. As soon as Doug calls Todd Diamond and says, will Pavel waive his 12-team partial no-trade clause to go to X team, then, things could be on. But at this moment, it doesn't seem like anything's happening with Buchnevich. The way I look at this situation is the Blues could trade Marco Scandella. I think that's a guy that could be of interest to teams. You could get a draft pick. We saw that Oskar Sundqvist was signed yesterday. I don't think the Blues have much else to offer unless they're looking at moving some other guys with term, and I don't see those types of deals happening at the deadline.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you see anybody waiving their no trade? Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, probably not for sure. Nick Leddy, anybody like that?
It's not so much that, I don't think those guys would not waive their no trade clause. I think that there is a chance perhaps this offseason that could happen. I think what makes it difficult this time of year is you look at their salary, $6.5 million for Falk and Krug, $4 million for Leddy. And it's a situation where teams are pressed up against the cap, the teams that are contending. And usually it's dollar in, dollar out. You saw Edmonton do that. Some other teams are doing that as well. So it's just too tough to make that move and get those guys under your cap this time of year.
JR, I don't know if you heard our interview with Joe Vitale, but Sonny told Joey that Doug Armstrong actually called and said, "Hey, what do you want us to do with you? We can trade you, or we can keep you around." And they gave him the 2-year contract extension. That's for me a pretty cool move on the part of Doug Armstrong.
Well, first of all, I never miss a Joey interview, so I'm going to have to go back and listen to the podcast because I did miss it. So I will have to listen to that one.
And JR, that podcast brought to you by Dobbs Tire Auto Centers.
Do we do a cha-ching, or is that when you just make money on it?
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching, okay. So with Sundqvist, yeah, I felt all along, I've been saying, he's a guy who could help a team in the playoffs. Obviously, we saw what he did in 2019, but he's just worth more to the Blues, helping them through whatever you want to call this, a retool, rebuild. And I think he comes cheap, even though he went up to $1.5 million. He was $775 this past year. It's worth it. Oskar Sundqvist on your roster is well worth it, especially for the young players that are coming up. So, yeah, really cool of Doug Armstrong to go to Sonny and give him that opportunity if he'd like to leave, if he'd like to stay. And I would have bet 10 out of 10 times that Oskar Sundqvist would pick to stay in St. Louis.
Bananas. Just seeing if you're paying attention. There's nothing going on, JR. Just seeing if you're paying attention.
I tried to pick a food that I never eat. So
vegetables.
Yeah, vegetables.
I mentioned this earlier, JR. The 8th seed in the playoffs last year at 95 points. The Blues have 67 with 19 to go. So they'd have to win 14 of their last 19, which is something they haven't done all year. Do you see anything like that ever transpiring in the stretch run here with the Blues?
Not whatsoever. And we could talk about the point totals all day and what it could take. And the Blues could be 2 points out of a playoff position right now as we speak. And I just wouldn't be confident in this team to not just win a playoff round, but to even make the playoffs at that point. Look, guys, last night I was doing the post-game interview with Drew Bannister, and I know he's kind of light-spoken, soft-spoken, but you could just see it in his face. You could hear it in his voice that he's just entirely disappointed with how this team is playing, and he used the term light, and I agree with him. Like, you look at the first 5 or 6, 7 minutes of every game, look at it tomorrow. It's like the Blues don't have a shot on goal. They haven't generated anything. There's no forecheck. Even when Craig Berube was here, he said the same thing, and now we're seeing it under Drew Bannister. This team wades into the game and tries to see what type of game it's going to be and how do I have to play, and are we going to need to play hard tonight? And that's just not how you play in the NHL. So many question marks up and down this roster, so many things that need to be changed. And again, whether they were 6 or 7 points out or 2 points out, I don't know how anybody could have faith in the group right now.
JR, the Blues have had players in the past. Ken Hitchcock always used this phrase, the players that would drag the other guys into a fight. David Backes did that. Ryan O'Reilly did that. All due respect to Braden Shen, and maybe it's the group of players that they're trying to drag into the fight, but can this group of Blues be dragged into the fight by somebody on this roster right now?
I don't think so. I think they've accepted their situation. I think they see the retool sign over their head. I think they see that there's going to be changes. They have a interim coach that they're not sure who's going to be back. And I know it's a little bit cliche, play for your coach, but I think it does come into account here when you don't know his future and your team isn't having success, and you know Doug Armstrong's history with making significant bold changes. I just think that there's too much up in the air right now. You know, I like Braden Shen's leadership. I think he can be that type of guy, but I think it's very, very, very hard for him to do by himself. Like, if you had 5 or 6, 7 quality leaders on this team like you've had in the past with the O'Reillys and the Shens or Petrangelos or Perrons or these guys, and you were just trying to pull 3 or 4 guys along with you, you know, I think Shen could do that. He's capable of doing that. It's impossible to pull 20 guys with you.
JR, the Blues have not outshot their opponent 5-on-5 in the last 19, just once in their last 26. That's tough to look at 5-on-5. Is that just a lack of depth and a lack of talent right now on this team?
Yeah, first of all, Dan, I cover the team every day, and I know you watch them, but I did not know that stat. So if I could borrow that stat, that'd
Absolutely.
be tremendous. Yeah, that's something. We know the 5-on-5 has not been good, and we're not just talking about scoring. You're right. You know, it's about shot attempts, and to get to get outshot 5-on-5 in 19 straight games, I mean, that just illustrates everything I've been saying the past couple minutes here. That's who this team is. So, whatever Doug Armstrong pulls off in the offseason is going to have to be with the focus of being a better 5-on-5 team, which whether that's defensively, offensively, whatever it is. But, it's just a situation where I just think they got the wrong group. And, we're not going to start talking about positive stats and positive trends until the group is different.
JR, as always, great stuff. Enjoy yourself. And Madison Square Garden tomorrow. That's
salad. I get
salad.
Robert Thomas told us after Toronto that MSG is his favorite place to go to play a game. What about covering a game there?
It's so great. It's funny you say that because I was at a local establishment with Robert Thomas's dad, Scott, last night, and a few Blues fans wandered in. They made the trip. They're from St. Louis, and they play hockey in St. Louis. These are adults in their 20s, 30s, and they were looking forward to it. And they said, "Tell us about Madison Square Garden. How cool is this going to be for us Saturday?" And I said, "Phenomenal, man. I'm right there with Robert Thomas. Like, even covering this league for 20 years, I get stoked to walk inside that building. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to it."
Have a great time, sir. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Jeremy Rutherford, our Blues insider from The Athletic here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, the Cardinals have announced the opportunity for you to turn to with Ozzie. If you could do a sports event with an athlete now or ever, who would that be? Like, you could catch a pass from Dan Marino or shoot hoops with Michael Jordan. What athlete would you like to do something with? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
Congratulations to Dan Kirk of Belleville, Illinois. He was picked as this week's 101 ESPN Blues Fan of the Week.
Submit your pick now at 101ESPN.com to be the next Fan of the Week. Taking home Blues tickets and a $50 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. 101 ESPN's Blues Fan of the Week is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings, official member of This Bar Bleeds Blue, presented by Bud Light.
Trading your car at a dealership? Get serious. Your car is worth more and they want to pay you less. Get full retail value without the retail hassle at sellmycarstl.com. With a new convenient location on Manchester Road in Bowen, that's sellmycarstl.com.
Sponsored by Taco Bell.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Your Blues back in action on Saturday night, facing off against the Rangers in New York. It's a 6:30 p.m. puck drop. Catch the pregame show right here on 101 ESPN starting at 5:30. The NHL's trade deadline ends today at 2 p.m. If you want to hear more conversation about it, you can go back to our Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast as Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic joined us, and also more Blues talk with Joe Vitale also on that Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast. The Cardinals back in action today after a 6-3 loss to the Astros yesterday, and also this weekend, St. Louis City SC back in action. They travel to Austin to face off against Austin FC. It's a 7:30 kickoff for that game. You can also go back to our Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast as Danny and Randy talked it over with St. Louis City head coach Bradley Carnell. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find the roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Brought to you by Sumner One.
The Cardinals have announced that registration for the one-of-a-kind Turn 2 with Ozzie on-field fan experience at Busch Stadium is now open at cardinals.com/Ozzie. As part of the hour-long experience, fans will get an up-close fielding demonstration by Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith on the Busch Stadium infield, followed by a unique opportunity to Turn 2 double plays with the 13-time Gold Glove winner. Each participant will have their experience captured by the Cardinals team photographer with photos accessible afterwards via an online gallery. And you can get involved at cardinals.com/Ozzie. Pretty cool idea for the Cardinals, and it'll be fun for people to take advantage of it. The dates for the event: Friday, May 31st and Friday, August 2nd. 4 one-hour sessions available for registration on those dates, May 31st and August 2nd. Registration is $510 and will be limited for each session. So this brought to mind for me, Dan and Matthew, what athlete would you like to participate in a similar vein with in any sport? What would you like to do, Dan?
18 holes with one Tiger Woods.
That would be incredible.
Now, I'd lose by 50 to 60 strokes, probably, literally. But if it's like a Pro-Am type situation where some of these guys, like our buddy Jay Delsing, takes a Pro-Am very seriously, where he is helping you, he's giving you an on-course lesson. I'd love to get that from Tiger Woods, but if I could just say I played with Tiger 18 holes, that would be awesome for me. That would be, how about for you?
I think I'd like to do a shoot-around with Charles Barkley.
Does he get to defend you at all, or you defend him?
No, I defend him, and he defends me. Yeah, it's basically kind of one-on-one, and we'll both hack each other all night long. It'll be fun.
That would be good.
Just hearing the stories. I'll let him shoot threes and stuff, but I would just like to be there to hear the stories.
I saw at Fantasy Camp, by the way, one time Ozzie Smith put on a clinic. And you had to pay extra for the clinic, and there was about 10 people out there. And he would throw, first of all, to second without looking. Somebody was there to take the throw. He would also bounce the ball off the dirt as if he was bouncing a basketball. This is dirt, not the turf, the artificial turf. And then I saw him with Brian Jordan at first base. He flipped one behind his back in the hole on a fly, and it hit him in the chest.
Unreal.
So behind the back, on the fly, kind of banana towards him, and made it right into the chest of Brian Jordan.
And older than 50 years old at that point.
I still think he could play defense. If you put him out there for an inning or two, he'd be fine.
He's almost 70, and he could do it. How about you, Matthew? What do you got?
I really liked your Charles Barkley one that made me think that a shoot-around with Larry Bird would be fun. Because
that was the other name I thought of.
You think of Listen, I have a lot of cousins. I have an older brother. I have a lot of friends who our relationship is entirely based on the mean things we say to each other. But I feel like Larry Bird would come up with new ways for me to hate myself.
He's the king of trash talk.
That would be fascinating. There was a time like when I was like 16 in high school, and somebody told me I had a big head for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, I never heard the insult before, and it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, 16 years, this is a new one, and I feel like Bird would do that to me every time he'd put down a three, just a new thing about myself that I'm like, I didn't know that. Jeez, Larry. I think it'd be fun.
I'd love to watch him shoot.
Yeah,
put on a clinic. 314 says, and this one I don't agree with. I wouldn't want to be a part of it, but I'd like to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
No,
because I don't think he'd get up.
Yeah, probably not.
And if he did, it wouldn't be for a while.
I would die. Well, I think I would die. I think my body would just be like, you know what?
Concussion for sure.
We're out. We're done, buddy.
Along those lines, and at bat against Bob Gibson. That was from the 314.
Why would you do that to yourself?
You might take one to the noggin with Bob Gibson.
What happens if you crowd the plate a little bit too much or like get a foul tip and he's like, you know what, this son of a... And then he just works you back a little chin music.
Right. Scary. From the 314, a shoot around with LeBron. That'd be fun just to watch the way that he goes about business because he's going to take it seriously, too.
314 says a workout with Kobe. I don't think you'd make it through 10 minutes with Kobe.
Why are you people such gluttons for punishment? This is
gluttons for pain, man.
This is masochism.
Here's one. How about this? A round of golf with John Daly would be absolutely sick. And then somebody else added in, and the 19th hole.
Do you have to be a smoker to be part of that foursome?
He'll handle all of that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a great one. I would want to drink some beers with the Hogs and Riggins in the 5 o'clock club after practice. Man, I bet you'd hear some stories.
How about a party with Dennis Rodman from the 309?
Gluttons for punishment again. In the trenches with Reggie White. You want him on your side. You don't want to be on the other side.
Do you see the documentary on him?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think of it?
Dominant, number one. It reminded me of how dominant he was. But he was an interesting fella because he started free agency, and then he got into free agency, and this was 93, so you might not remember this, but he said, I'm going to go where God tells me to go, and then ironically, God sent him to the place that was offering the most money.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, to the Packers, and then he resurrected the Packers. Favre was there, but I think everybody gives credit to the Packers' resurrection to Reggie White.
Can I cheat on one?
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to quarterback a 7-on-7 with the 99 Rams offense.
That'd be fun.
That would be amazing.
Oh, man, that'd be a blast.
Don't drop one, though. You talk about trash talk.
They'd be all over you?
Yeah.
I'd be the quarterback. So I got Torrey, Isaac, Marshall, and Oz.
Let's see, 314 said, I took batting practice with Scott Terry, the former Cardinal, obviously. He said he drilled me and then laughed at me. I saw down at fantasy camp, someone was talking a lot of you-know-what to a former Cardinal pitcher and closer who could still throw. And he said, no problem, get in the batter's box. And they had the gun up to give your velocity of what was happening. And he threw it 88 miles an hour in his ribs. He said, don't think about talking you-know-what to me anymore.
That ended the fantasy camp for that guy, probably.
It wasn't a fantasy to get that.
You got one from the 636 says, catching beers with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I also said, if I could have like a tape of me on national television getting a stunner from Stone Cold, that would like relive every childhood dream I had as a kid. That'd be awesome.
Getting a lot of people saying pitch a game with Yachty as my catcher, or watching or taking BP with Albert Pujols.
Oh man, that'd be wild.
Big Mac would be fun too.
From the 314, a couple of them. I would love to do one-timers on the ice with Wayne Gretzky feeding me passes.
They'd be perfect.
I would love to get beamed by Nolan Ryan and charge the mound, although that never does go well.
No. Ask Robin Ventura how that went.
Right.
314, somebody says their idea, the best shoot around they could think of would be with Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, come on.
Right up. I saw it. I left it alone because I figured this is right up Randy's alley.
I can't.
Yeah. You don't need to shoot around with him. Just hang out.
OJ. That one got me. OJ Simpson wasn't an option on the fight, and Randy didn't even get to make a joke about it. Somebody says play heads-up poker against Daniel Negreanu. That's a good one.
That is. That'd be awesome. How about 26.2 with Kipchoge? Or Kipchoge? Is that 26.2 must be a marathon with a marathoner.
Okay. No thanks.
Mm-hmm. But if you'd like to do it, I think that'd be awesome.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan.
Somebody said a round of golf with Jordan. Here's the problem there. How much money can you lose before you are insolvent financially?
Yeah, true.
He has a course that he built, 23, I think it's called, or no, it's, I can't remember the name. I think 23 is in it, but you're told right away, if Jordan's out there, you don't approach him. This is not autographs, this is not pictures. He wants to play golf, and you leave him alone. I could see that.
I would think so. Yeah, I would guess he goes through a few cigars around.
I didn't think about this, but probably the most fun thing to do would be taking shots against like an all-time goalie. Somebody says taking shots against Grant Fuhrer. I don't know, who if you're a soccer fan, who your personal favorite goalie is, but like just like taking a bunch of penalty shots against like an all-time goalie that'd be a pretty fun afternoon. Like Howard, the old United States men's national team goalie Howard. Get him out there and just spend an afternoon trying to put it in the upper 90 against him. That'd be a blast.
We've had some couples say watching Randy on the fight and then seeing how Randy competes behind the scenes. Maybe we could auction that off for charity or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely I would.
Okay.
It'd be good. Here's one from the 314. Go for a drive with OJ.
Fencing with OJ.
You get the entire road in front of you.
Yeah. 618. Eating hot dogs with Joey Chestnut.
Ooh, it's uncomfortable to watch with the veins that are popping out on his head and he's sweating. Yeah, it's a little nasty.
How about this one from the 618, deflating footballs with Tom Brady?
Well, just go watch how he does it.
Yeah.
These are pretty good.
Hey, and you can turn to with Ozzie. Just go to cardinals.com/Ozzie. And again, the dates for Turn 2 with Ozzie are May 31st and August 2nd. Check it out. It's really cool, and you won't have a bad time. Ozzie is so cordial and congenial to everybody that he runs across. And if you're with Ozzie Smith, you're going to have a good time.
Is there somebody that you'd love to watch? I don't care if it's a baseball game, football game, watching golf, but you're sitting down and they're giving you essentially the play-by-play of it, like Peyton Manning saying, I would do this, or this is what's coming in this situation. But you're in a private room, you just sit next to that guy, and he goes over the strategy of the play. Peyton would be pretty cool.
It's hard to imagine that there could be somebody more interesting than that. But I'll tell you what, watching a baseball game with Whitey,
ooh, that would be, even now, he's sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
Even now would be fun.
Yeah. He knows everything that's going on. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you very much for all of your texts. Coming up, we're going to head down the stretch of this edition and this week of the opening drive with Rock and Roll. Stick around. It's here on 101 ESPN. All right, we've got some rain. We're going to have rain over the next couple of days, a lot of it. And if you get home and water is coming over the middle of your gutters, it's not supposed to work that way. That's why you need to get in touch with Gutter Pros at gutterpros.com, because they can diagnose the problem. They'll come out and take a look. And if you need new gutters attached, they can do it. They're the best in the business at gutterpros.com. And they'll Tell water where to go, and water goes where Gutter Pros tells it to go. They can provide you with great gutters and leaf protection, and of course they'll do soffit and fascia for you as well, whether you have a residential or a commercial job. And it's a great St. Louis company, Gutter Pros is, and that's why you need to get in touch with them, because they're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They have 4.9 out of 5 stars on their review, so people like the job that St. Louis-based Gutter Pros does. If you need new gutters, there's really only one place in St. Louis to go, and that is Gutter Pros. For a long time, they've done more than just gutters, and they do a fabulous job of everything they do. Set your appointment today at gutterpros.com.
Down to Florida for a spring training report on 101 ESPN.
Presented by E&P Granite, Brooke, Jamie, Curbs, and Bernie Federko's choice for countertops and cabinets.
It is time for Rock and Roll here on 101 ESPN. Matthew, what do you got for us?
First, Randy, we got a little spring training report because yesterday we opened this show talking about Jim Bowden's article about the contract extensions that could be coming down the pipe for some young players in the MLB, and he projected a 7-year, $68 million deal for Lars Nootbaar. And the big question was, well, do you sign him to this kind of deal? The injury concerns have been there. And then later on, we got an answer. In fact, we got a texter who texted and said, is there a reason that Nootbaar hasn't played since Saturday? Well, very astute call by the texter, because a few hours later, we then found out that Lars Nootbaar was being sidelined by torso soreness. He was undergoing evaluations. He was going to get a CT scan to kind of figure that thing out. Your guys' thoughts when you saw another outfielder with some question marks around him?
He seems to get hurt a lot.
Last year, he only played in 108 games.
Yeah.
And you got to stay on the field to get contracts like that. Mm-hmm. The one thing that would be a positive for me in the checking the box of signing him long term is just what he does against right-handed pitching, and that would project to put up really good numbers. 70% of the league is right-handers, so he's going to see a lot of playing time. The biggest thing would be for me, He's got to be healthy. He's got to stay on the field, and right now he's not been.
No, and John Denton has a piece up today about what Dylan Carlson is doing to stay on the field. I wonder why it is that the Cardinals have so much difficulty finding players to play 140 games.
You know what it is, Randy? I figured it out. It's the rolling over of Vince Coleman. That's what happened.
We're cursed by the tarp?
Maybe we're cursed by the tarp. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know.
A lot of that stuff happened. But it's interesting because Goldie and Arenado are so durable, and Yachty was extremely durable. But who have they had that has played all the time that they've developed in the last 20 years?
Good question.
There really have not been many of those guys.
Can't say Brendan Donovan, Paul DeYoung would get hurt here and there. Oh, man.
Yeah, not really an outfielder that was consistently durable. Pitcher.
There's got to be somebody, right?
No, I mean, Grichuk, Piscotty,
Rasmus.
Bader.
Rasmus stayed on the field when he played.
Yeah.
When he was inserted into the lineup.
It wasn't injuries that kept him out of the lineup most of the time, was it? It was other things.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's because you look at and we mentioned it yesterday with the Braves. Why are they able to keep all of their guys, position players, on the field so much? Everybody has pitching injuries. Literally every other team, not just the Cardinals, have pitching injuries. But I wonder why that is. And the Yankees, by the way, run into the same thing. Judge is hurt all the time. Stanton's, now they're big guys, but Stanton's hurt all the time. They have trouble keeping guys on the field in New York, too.
I think it comes down to luck. Sometimes you got to have a little luck along the way, too, where guys just don't get hurt. But sometimes behind the scenes, there's a reason as to why that happens. But I don't know. I just think it's one of the oddities of the sport. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
And let's fly on back from Florida back here to St. Louis, where Doug Armstrong will be holding a press conference at 2:30 today, and we'll be carrying it live here on 101 ESPN.
Looking forward to that. I wonder if the Blues have already determined, okay, nothing's happening today, and he'll say, I told you a couple of weeks ago that we were probably going to stay neutral, and there might be one deal. They might do Scandella, but otherwise, Dan, I would anticipate that they'll stay neutral.
I do too. I think it's a game of chicken at this point. You know, when you're Doug Armstrong, you can, because some guys have come off the board, you can ask for more. And if it's not a prospect, a top prospect and a number one, he just walks away from it. I could see him doing that. I also could see him dealing. I just don't have a feeling one way or another. Now, when we talk to Joey, we talk to JR, their feelings are, if you missed it, that Blues probably stand pat with Buchnevich. But I could see either way. I really could. The Blues are really in a just kind of a gray spot. You know what I mean? They're not one way, they're not the other. They're just kind of caught in the middle right now with what they're doing.
And I don't know that there is a contending team that hasn't made a move for a top six winger if they need him.
And that's what I was saying before.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if there's a team that's backed into a corner and they need that player, but I'm not sure there's one out there that would be that desperate to give up that kind of package.
No,
it's a pretty significant package.
Yeah, when the Carolina move happened, it kind of knocked off one of the more likely ones. My thing is I just keep coming back to the Doug Armstrong quote from earlier in the week where he said he would get creative, because when you kind of look at the scope of what teams could make the move, it does widen, I guess, a little bit further than we would originally be looking at when you're talking about if the Blues do retain half of it and all of a sudden it goes down to, $2.5 million that you only have to have free, that does kind of change it. But again, I do kind of wonder about 1-year deal, and how much can you convince a team to bump up the value by retaining that salary? Can you actually get what he wants, which is a first and then another first or equivalent prospect to a first rounder?
I've been running through my mind of outfielders. Skip Schumacher.
Yeah, he played a lot.
Stayed on the field, played a little second base,
right?
Made the transition there. That would be one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Someone said John Jay.
Yeah, Jay played a lot.
Marp.
Marp, he got, he had the problems with exhaustion.
Yep.
He had a couple of injuries down the stretch, but man, for those 12, 13, 14, 15, he was pretty durable.
He's pretty awesome, too.
He was great.
Man, was he a good Cardinal at that point.
Yeah.
And we get to see him again.
It's going to be terrific. I just wish that we could have 5 players that would play 140 games each. If I could get 140 out of Walker, Wynn, Newt Barr, and the 2 corner infielders, I would be thrilled.
I'll throw Contreras in there if he's a DH.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get catcher and DH.
Yeah, so have him play 110 behind the plate, 100 behind the plate, and have Herrera play the rest?
I saw Tyler O'Neill skip some time with a calf issue.
No.
Yeah, I know that's shocking to you.
The Iron Horse.
The Iron Horse. Little Lou Gehrig in him, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. Holy cow.
Does that mean?
Terrible.
No, it's good. it's good. What can you say? The guy's always hurt.
He kind of is, yeah. We've got a balloon party coming up with T-Mac and Ajax on this Friday, 10 to 11, and then BK and Ferrario, 11 to 2, and then from 2 to 6, the Fast Lane, and don't forget, as Matthew mentioned, at 2:30, the Doug Armstrong Press Conference live here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Great job today by our producer, audio and video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio.
Pleasure.
Daniel, great job again.
You two have a great vacation.
Pleasure. Pleasure. Brooke will be back from her mini vacation, her bachelorette party on Monday, so it'll be Brooke.
And Rock.
And Rock.
Yeah, they're going to do Monday.
Well, looking forward to that.
Me, Brooke, and Bradford Bruns.
Oh, right. Bradford. Okay, good.
That'll be fun. Looking forward to that. And if you guys need anything, it seems like inevitably, especially when the Rams were here, they would always do something while I was on this Arizona vacation. So I'd wind up on the air anyway.
So do you want to call in?
I can call in, yeah.
Okay.
No problem at all.
We'll get you every day for at least 2 segments.
You got it.
Happy vacation. There's going to be some kind of update to Sonny Gray on Sunday night, and we'll be like, well, I know what the first segment is on tomorrow. Randy,
bring it,
get on the phone.
Yeah. Hey, we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. For all of us until Monday morning at 7, don't just make it a great weekend. Make it an American weekend.
That's right.